It's Brad Phillips. Look at this. We got the F-15 by Arrows NX8, and we have an AR-631. This one doesn't have the Vector in it. We are running an Arrows pack this time. Battery leads going forward. Note that there is an adapter. We don't have a voltage alarm because this is our second flight. Not sure the order you're gonna see them, but anyway, we changed our roll gain from the standard 40 to 50. We left the pitch gain at 50 and then the yaw gain at 60. I don't know, whatever the standard is, we just bumped it up by 10. And I went to 2X on my gain control for AS3X. We have the setup for AS3X off and safe, okay? So we're ready to fly this thing. Obviously, this thing has beautiful retracts. If you haven't seen them, check this out. That is so sweet. Watch that nose gear. Locking gear. Work really nice. Of course, I put it down in the grass on the first flight. You haven't seen that yet, though. I always roll the mains off the end of our driveway just to give something that allows the throttle to be full before it kicks off. Just that little teeny lip on the concrete really helps to speed it up. Okay, so takeoff flaps are deployed. Throttle cuts off. Oh, except I'm not off the lift. Well, I guess we're gonna be off the lift this time. Full throttle. Oh yeah, gear up. So gorgeous. Oh man, this is so different without the crazy wind. Our Maiden, it was so freaking windy, folks. 50% throttle, 40% throttle, 30%. 100%. Oh, that is so sweet. My camera crew is very nervous about the... Okay, full landing flaps. Let's slow it down for a pass here. Look at that thing. So glidey and gorgeous. Oh, did you hear the noise that went by the house? Okay, out of the flaps here, we're gonna get you guys a high-speed pass. I'm gonna probably double back and go down the runway. Doing nice, relaxed turns now. My gain knob is at 50%, which is the full, it would have been all the way up on 1X. Yes! That's a 30% input on the elevator. Guys, this thing will be way more agile, but I'm just like enjoying the way it looks. A little bit of rudder there to keep that nose flat, a little bit more to keep it coming down. That was 50% input, here's 100. Oh, that is absolutely fantastic. 0%, 5%. Eagle killing zone is obviously on the brain with this airplane because it is an Eagle. On our first flight, we had an Eagle right over here by us hanging out. It was so cool. Okay, no throttle pass. Guys, this plane flies really, really well. I am super impressed with it. And guys, we've been pretty much impressed. Okay, full roll rate. Really good. Looks good on the bottom, looks good on the top. Takeoff flaps. We're gonna try to take a pass under the power lines here. So I'm gonna get way out there, just make sure I'm in alignment. There's a little bit of nose lift under throttle I'm feeling. Oh gosh, that is so sweet. For those of you that are not filming, that is hard to do. So thank you, camera crew, for being awesome. For those of you that are new to the channel, Brian Phillips RC here. Okay, full landing flaps coming out this time. My camera crew and wonderful wife, Megan, does all the filming for us. We just upgraded our camera gear, so hopefully you like it going inside this time. You good? Yes! Absolutely gorgeous. You see that little slip with the tail? That was so awesome. Guys, this thing is rock solid. It does better in dead calm. I can say full landing flaps and gear. Let's do a dirty pass here. We are 1 minute out. Pushing it down to keep it flying. Oh yeah, out of the flaps, into the takeoff flaps, out of the takeoff flaps. You'll note that I did that in a delayed fashion because I knew I had a lot of drag with those gear coming up. Those rear gear. Okay, let's do some upside down flight performance. I don't do a lot of upside down flight performance just because I think it's somewhat lame myself, but I want to know that it can do it. And this is a full ordnance pack, and you see we've got some visitors here. So we'll do some crazy stuff for them. Full landing flaps on the way downhill. That looks so freaking awesome. Oh yeah, baby. We're gonna rudder. Let's give him a pass right over the top of his car. He wants to see it, I know he does. These are the types of things that good neighbors like, folks. When you got neighbors that are 20 acres away, it's all in good fun. Okay, gear coming out. There's a lot of extra drag when those rear gear come out because they're 90-degree rotation. I want to find a low point. Full landing flaps deployed, 30% power. We are landing. Out of the throttle for a glide, eating up some inertia. Little bit of flare, little bit of power. Gear going up. And we are dead stick, so I'm gonna have to figure something out here. We are dead stick. Full landing flaps. Gear up. Here we go. Yeah, baby. That was 54 seconds past. 54 seconds past. Okay, let's talk about what just happened there. Some planes make you want to fly them so bad that you just cannot respect the timer. I knew exactly what was up. I came in here. I said, if I put down here, I'm gonna bounce and it's gonna be bad. So I said, caution to the wind. And I went out here, got myself in position, and I came over here. So let's look at here, hold this, camera crew. Actually, let's retract the flaps. First things first, elevator, rudder, flaps. Everything's working. So, except I had the gear up. I knew I wasn't gonna make it. I said, I'm right on the verge of possibly making it in ground effect. And I would have been a completed out there, but I would have touched down and then had a downhill roll. So I was like, whatever, this is what you get. Okay, so let's see what kind of damage we caused. It is wet on the surface today of the tarmac. Oh yeah, baby. Oh man, we are so freaking lucky. Grab that grass, will you? Oh, I got it.
My hands are full.
Sorry. So we got a little schmutz on the bottom, no big deal. Good thing we had ordnance because we're gonna do a flight without ordnance. Go ahead and toggle the gear if you could. Oh, I am so happy that I had the ordnance on. That is so cool. And by the way, the ordnance looks sweet on this plane. I gotta say, I feel bad. I haven't given you guys a good landing, so we're gonna put in a smart pack this time. We'll see the difference in flight performance, which should be very minimal to none, but we might get a little longer flight time, I'm guessing. All right, stay tuned. I did rip this off of the plastic, so I'll have to re-glue that, but that's honestly, that's like a 5-minute job. So we'll do that off camera, it's so easy. All right, trifecta, guys. Not sure what order you're seeing this, probably this and the last one, where we had ordnance and dead stick landed for the second time. 3200, 6S, 30C Smart Pack, no telemetry, because I don't have an AR637T or a smart receiver, or smart ESC. Smart ESC would give us battery telemetry. All right, takeoff flaps are deployed. Throttle cuts off, timer is cleared. We're gonna respect it. This time I promise. Full throttle, and we have rolling about 70 feet out of the takeoff flaps, out of the gear. Very powerful. We do have a voltage alarm this time. We neglected to put it in last time because we were like, whatever, it's just so stressful. So, 4 minutes. You better be landing, or into final at least. Man, that looks good. Going down the runway, full throttle to make that turn. Oh, that looks so sweet. I love the noise as it goes past the building here. Takeoff flaps to help with this turn. And a little bit of throttle to juice it out. Yeah, baby. Okay, out of the takeoff flaps. Full landing flaps. We're gonna tighten this turn up here. This would be a good one for a flap to elevator mix because it would look sweet and you could really tweak on it and do it fast. Jank it around there. See, you can really get it to turn sharp. Oh, Mother Nature, you are not loving us today, are you? Oh yeah, baby. Okay. 4 steps to your right. That's, sorry, other right. My apologies. I said it wrong. Toward the runway, there you go. Okay, high speed pass, you good?
Mm-hmm.
Oh, guys. I must say the pull-out with this plane is very undesirable because it makes me scared. I mean, who likes to pull out ever? Down, down. Get your nose down there, buddy. I love the sound. Twin 64 millimeters of delight. A little upside down action. You know, some of you guys that are better pilots than me just love to do upside down flight. I just don't care that much. I'm sorry, I don't mean to discourage anybody that loves it. There's a little bit of an oscillation induced from that turn. Okay, minute 35 left. I feel like we should try to shoot a couple of landings just to practice. Because I feel like we don't even know how long it takes to land. Okay, takeoff flaps are deployed, very low throttle, about 30–40%. This thing slows down nicely, gear coming out. Okay, a little bit of throttle just so I don't hit my turn. I don't want to lose the nose in a stall. Okay, going to the lowest point here. Takeoff flaps, landing flaps here. 50% throttle, hitting that low point. Ooh, that was a little scary. A little bit of throttle, a little bit of throttle, a little bit of throttle. A little bit of throttle. Ah, no, we're not gonna make it. Okay, gear going up. Flaps going out. Get out of the drag. Takeoff flaps going back in. Hey, I need you to go to the edge of the driveway at the front. Stop right there. That's good enough. Okay. Gear coming down. Takeoff flaps deploying. Riding the rudder hard to the left, 25% input. That keeps the nose down. Okay, out of the throttle. Trying to glide. Guys, the glide ratio on these planes is really good. That's true for just about all the jets. And so what happens is if you don't high alpha them in, ooh, wow, did you see that? Mm-hmm. Woo-wee! Man, it's slick as grease on there. Look at that.
That was not bad, though.
I think it was kind of bad.
You're on the runway?
You mean everybody lived, including the plane? Look at this, it's greasy. This is so weird. It's like December. It's Christmas Eve. Merry Christmas, guys. Okay? So here's the thing. Let's look at the ground handling. You guys notice that I janked the plane left and right on landing? That is not because I'm trying to correct my position. Oh, nice turning radius, folks.
Oh, that's good.
That is awesome. I don't do that to make it look stupid. I do that because I physically need to. Oh, that looks so sweet in those puddles. And by the way, those puddles are like perpetual puddles, which is super nice. You see how the wheels are kind of kicked out at an angle like that? I don't think that was a break point. I think they're actually at an angle all the time. So let's look at that closer. Hold on, I'm gonna go around the camera crew. Let's zigzag it. That looks so sweet. Full landing flaps. Guys, just love the way that this plane flies. It's one that's gonna make you wanna overstay your welcome in the air. I can tell you that with certitude. Oh, by the way, we didn't hear the alarm go off once. That's pretty good. But we exactly respected the timer on this one. Takeoff flaps only now. I can feel the exhaust getting blown at us from the wind. That wheel is bent. That's why it's jankety. Look.
Oh, it is.
Okay, throttle cuts on. Let's check it out. I didn't feel like that was an overly terrible landing.
No.
Here. With jets, I always have the lanyard always swings right on top of the plane. Huh, what the heck? Oh, they just pivoted. Look, I gotta tighten this, guys.
Oh.
This one's tight. Well, that's an easy fix. And by the way, guys, I'm just gonna say this right now. Those landing gear are phenomenal looking. If I have a loose screw that I need to tighten, you know, that's like in the realm of, it's annoying, but it's not a big deal. Because we have had many landing gear on competitive aircrafts that have broken on the first landing with greasy perfect landings. Well, maybe not greasy perfect, but still.
Not terrible.
Some of them didn't even open and close out of the box.
Yeah.
So if you have to tighten this thing, I think it's not a big deal. And maybe that wasn't a perfect landing, but I can tell you this, our first landing was in the tall grass, no damage, none. Not even, oh, that's not
No,
true. We flipped and broke one of those things, which is already fixed.
Yeah.
Second landing, I dead stick landed here and I missed a huge clump of grass by like 6 inches.
Yep.
So that was annoying. Got these scraped, there's one spot where I'm gonna have to touch it up with a gray marker, and then everything else is just dirty. So I can wipe it down with a clean plastic, or you know, like kitchen rag or whatever, and that should take care of it. In fact, the scrape marks kind of make it look cool, I think. So I don't even know if I'm gonna intentionally clean them. But love the way that this plane flies. I feel like the ordnance on it behaved almost better, which is so strange.
Oh, I
don't really understand how that can be.
Yeah.
I don't think that it makes it to, oh, by the way, I did glue that ordnance back there. It took like 3 seconds. So it's just basically setting up now. And there was a one vertical like this and it went across and then another vertical. This vertical broke off in the foam, but no big deal. It didn't damage this. That's the part I want to protect. Because typically I don't fly with ordnance, and it does look like I caught this probably a little bit too.
That was actually yesterday.
Oh, that was yesterday? Okay, cool. But yeah, that was from the first flight. But guys, obviously, safe works on this. This plane, if you have the right environment, would not be a terrible first EDF. But I can tell you this, respect the timer. 4 minutes on a brand new battery. That means after you've used it for a year or something, it's gonna be 3.5. If I was you and I was a noob, and I mean noob like this is your 5th or 7th plane or 10th plane, and it's maybe your 2nd or 3rd EDF, I would set the timer to 3 minutes. And you will thank me when you get it on the ground. Now that's to say, we have a postage stamp to land on right here. You may have a longer, like this is only 10 feet wide. Most landing strips at the clubs are like 40 feet wide. Some of them are huge. And when you have a huge runway, or maybe some people fly off of real runways and they still can't land it. So, I mean, a taxiway is as wide as our driveway or wider. This is 37 feet wide, okay? The taxi wide would typically be wider than that. So it just depends on the airport, I suppose. But if you're on a real airport, that's gonna be way wider than that. So anyway, for those of you that are wondering, does this thing fly phenomenally? Yes, it does. Did it go together? Sure it did, but we didn't like putting the tail together. That was one of the drawbacks. Thirdly, the battery is not fun to put in because the strap on the back is in a bad spot, but it works perfect, i.e., it's in the right spot. Sometimes it's hard to put batteries in jets, and that's just the way it is, and we have to learn to accept that because this jet is 100 times as nice. Well, maybe not 100 times. Let's say it's 5 times as nice as the same jet you would have got 6 years ago. And it's crazy to say that, but those of you that had them 6 years ago are gonna say, you know what, he's kind of right. Because those things, they fly better, they look better, and granted, I'm a better pilot, so I'm a little bit skewed on my opinion of planes that we're getting nowadays compared to planes that I got 5 or 6 years ago. Because my skills have improved a lot since 5 years ago. But all I can say is, loving the way that the AR-631 works in this. I would have put an AR-630, 631 is better for range probably. It's got the external antenna. Horizon claims that they have the range. I'm not gonna make any bets on it, but the end pin would be nice. Not a deal breaker because we obviously got it done. And secondly, I gotta say, this thing looks absolutely gorgeous doing passes. And what do you do with jets? High speed pass, high speed pass, high speed pass, high speed pass, timer, high speed pass, high speed pass. Oh crap, it's dead stick landing. That's how it goes.
Yeah.
I mean, I've been there.
All right.
Anyway, F-15 Eagle, beautiful livery. Hard to hold for a camera because jets are always like that. Just love this thing, guys. Arrows, eat your heart out. This thing is awesome. Guys, buy it from the link in the video description below. You'll help support our channel with small commissions that are paid from somebody else to us just because you watched our video and followed our link there. So that's the way that works. There's no catch. The catch is then Arrows knows that we put videos out that you guys enjoy watching their planes fly, and it helps to prompt your decision to purchase. If you're gonna watch advertising, what type of advertising do you wanna watch? This, if you call this an advertisement. But anyway, I just want you guys to understand that's how we fund our channel predominantly. We have some really supportive, kind people that are helping us in Patreon And then we have people that do that in PayPal too, for those that don't like PayPal or Patreon, or they don't have the ability to buy these from the vendors that we work with because maybe they're overseas or there's a shipping issue or something like that, or it ends up getting cost prohibitive to get to like Australia, let's say. I mean, it costs hundreds of dollars to ship this thing there. You know, that's where some of those people have decided to do the PayPal or Patreon, which is nice. We really appreciate it. But at the end of the day, what do we want for you guys? We want you to be in the air. We want you to be in the air yesterday. And if you're a brand new pilot, we want you to be flying as soon as possible. Don't wait. What do you have to lose? YOLO. I'm way too old for that crap.
You are.
But anyway, the point is, your life is not gonna be extended if you wait to start flying. Okay? If you have dreams of flying this plane and you're like, but Brian, I have no experience. So what? Neither did I. Start from zero and then work to where you want to get, and we will help you. We will encourage you to get off of your tail and get a tail on an airplane and then fly it in the air, and you'll have lots of crashes and lots of burns and possibly a cut or two, but you're gonna love the whole experience. I promise you. Otherwise, people wouldn't spend the kind of cash they do on these things, okay? It's a real lifestyle. That's what they say, and it's true. For those of us that really love this stuff, it is a lifestyle. Camera crew, is that true?
Yes. Totally.
Totally true.
Yeah.
It's totally true. So, buy one today if you like it. If you don't like the F-15, if you just loathe the F-15, first of all, I don't know what's wrong with you. But second of all, if you loathe this F-15 especially, well, there's other ones too. You could buy an F-16, you could buy an F-18, you could buy all sorts of planes. And we have tons of links down below. If you can't find what you're looking for, just look at the master links. They're right at the top of the list. Click on there. If you're concerned we're not gonna get credit, which a few of you have reached out and asked, generally speaking, we do. Just buy from the links. Just go to the link, navigate to where you wanna go, buy the stuff you wanna buy, and we'll get credit. We honestly trust the companies we work with because they are trustworthy companies. They are good companies. Even the companies that sent us Dynam have been amazing to work with.
Yeah.
And they have been super supportive of us. And they've said, Dynam, straighten up. And guess what? They still haven't. So anyway, I just want you guys to know, if the companies don't back us up, if they don't back up you, it plays a part in our decision making because we're here for you. Stay tuned. Unbox, build, radio setup coming next. What do you have to say, Cameron?
I was going to say happy 7-year anniversary of flying planes.
Today?
Well, I mean, it was Christmas 7 years ago.
Seriously?
Our third was a...
Well, I don't know what day it was.
We got you that little... We got you a drone, or the Inum.
The Inum? As opposed to the Outum? No, the Inum is a fly zone plane.
Yeah.
And it flew inside. It was 10 grams before I crashed it 50 times.
That was 7 years ago.
That was 7 years ago?
Yep.
Man, time flies when you're having fun.
Something
So
like that.
7 years of pure delight, pure marital delight. You know that's almost half of our married life?
Oh,
Wow.
it is. Almost.
Yeah, I know. Almost. Just wait till it is. Stay tuned, guys. We're going to unbox this, build it, and radio set up it. And by the way, the only changes we made was we went from 1X in forward programming for the gains on AS3X to 2X. That was A. And B, we changed the roll gain from the default 40, 50, 60, from roll, pitch, elevator, whatever it is. I don't, the three that are in a row, the top one was roll. I changed it from 40 to 50. Mm-hmm. Everything else, I'm flying it in number 2 position, the middle position, which is actually number 1 on the F switch for Expo. So you'll see that, and everything was good. I feel like on high-speed passes, I could maybe kick it down to the, more Expo, lower rates, and it would help with a little bit of confidence. But like you guys see, I mean, like this far away from us, and it's going like 90.
Totally fine.
And we feel comfortable doing that because my wife loves and trusts me just that much. And if you don't have a wife that does that, then you are missing out. Thanks for watching. YouTube, it's Brian Phillips. Look what we've got here. The Arrows F-15 twin 64 millimeters of pure delight. This thing is running today for our true maiden on 6S 3200 Arrows pack with an XT60 end, but just be aware it comes with an EC5 connector, and we're gonna pause and take off. So also before we get started, AR631, there's no vector in this one. The AR631 has safe. It has no AS3X and then AS3X. Those are the three settings we did. If you want to stay tuned after the flights, you can see our build. Okay, so takeoff flaps deployed. Here we go. Oh yeah, gear going up, baby.
Wow.
That was very good.
Yeah.
Oh, the alarm's already going off because it's at 3.6 and it's not happy. Still on takeoff flaps. Oh, beautiful. Guys, I gotta say those vectors have been well engineered because look, I had to just turn my gains up a little bit to get that thing to hold steady. Oh yeah, baby. That ain't bad. Feel like this battery is a little bit annoyed with life right now. We are out of the takeoff flaps. Let's see full landing flaps here and see how much slows down. Oh my goodness.
Wow.
That is a wide flight envelope. Okay, into full throttle. Let's go about 10 steps back. Actually, stay right where you are. You're good. You're good. High speed pass. Oh, that looks sweet.
It sounds impressive.
It does. Oh yeah! Little upside down recovery there. Do you see how I did that, guys? Man, that thing does. It is hard to tell what direction you're going. Forward, backward, left, right. Feel like it's easy to fly, but I feel like the wind is really oscillating the ailerons. I'd like to turn up my aileron gain a little bit and leave everything else down some. Let's just turn it all up a little bit. Man, that looks so good. Go about 10 steps toward the house there. Thank you. Here we go, guys. Look at this. Take off flaps. Let's just deploy the gear and see how terrible this is going to feel landing. Okay, full landing flaps. The gear coming out. I have not messed with anything. She's going to be speedy, but I think I'll be able to do it on the main runway. Gear going back up. Oh, I love that 90-degree rotation. Now, I'm still struggling to tell, is it overcorrecting right now on the stabilizer, or are we just feeling wind? I think we might be just feeling wind. Let's do a high-speed pass. Let's get it low and beautiful. You're good where you are.
Okay.
Those LEDs help a lot with orientation, by the way, folks. That is so sweet. Now, I gotta say, for being a twin 64, this thing is not feeling doggy, okay? Oh, bald eagle.
Yep.
Next to the eagle. Oh, we have to get it in the same shot. Take off flaps, landing flaps. Here we go. If this bird kills this plane, it's worth it. You see it?
Yep.
Oh, that is so cool. Okay, out of the flaps. Timer's at 52 seconds. Oh yeah, that is so beautiful. Guys, you're probably seeing the wind move this plane around and thinking that's hard to fly. It's actually not. It's just oscillating a little teeny bit, and it's not a self-induced oscillation. I can differentiate between those. Oh yeah,
That was really cool.
that was awesome. Oh man. Guys, look at the upside down. Almost in a stall, and you can just come right out of it with the power. Absolutely gorgeous. Loving it. Okay, I hate to even waste any time on safe right now, but about 30–40% throttle, take off flaps with the wind, and safe. Whoops, that's gear. And safe. So we're in safe right now, and I'm just gonna go ahead and turn around here. We're in takeoff flaps. Okay, so I'm letting go of the sticks, about 30% throttle, roll left, roll right. Look at that. That's just auto leveling. My hands are off the sticks. I'm just holding the transmitter. Look at that. Okay, here we go. Throttle. Out of safe. Okay, it's time to land this thing. Camera crew, let's go to the edge by the bowl, please. Fairly quick. I'll be nice to you here. Okay, takeoff flaps coming out. Perfect, right there. You good for your angle of rotation?
Yes.
Okay, good. Just coming over here, gonna really relax into this landing. You see that oscillation? That is not self-induced. That is wind. Wind shear over the top of those trees. Oh boy, that landed so slow. But you guys wanna know something? That was a dead stick landing.
Yeah.
Let's see if we damaged anything on this beautiful bird. Super excited about the way that flew. That was 1:07 right now. So basically,
Pass.
we got a conservative 4 minutes of flight out of it. And by the way, that was an impressive first landing with hardly any effort. You wanna know why it was no effort? Because all the effort on a jet landing comes at the very last 1 second, and I never made it to the one last second. I did sustain a little bit of a squish here.
Yep.
So honestly, that can be fixed with probably nothing. I think we're done.
Not, yeah.
Oh, I broke off my tip. Oh no. Where did my tip go?
We'll find it.
Do you see it? Well, anyway, you'll see it in a future video. Yes.
I was gonna say, it's always right there.
I got the tip. Yes. That one's not damaged. So that one, just imagine like, pretend like it never happened, guys.
Yeah.
There you go. See? No damage at all. Okay, thoughts. Thoughts. A Maiden, beeping the whole time. Okay, we're at 18.4 volts. That's pretty dead. Okay, couple thoughts. A, low voltage cutoffs in EDFs should be removed totally from every ESC, because I'd rather catch my battery on fire in flight than lose a plane, A. B, maybe a low voltage reduction in power would be fine. Look where we had the battery. I felt like it was good. You could maybe go a little bit back. Also, having that beeping the entire flight is super like scary as a pilot. So I don't like it at all. But it is a necessary evil, okay? The ordnance comes off super easy. The thing flies like a daydream. Look at this, gear. Oh my goodness. That is so absolutely gorgeous. And they held up fine, I mean, to a grass landing. I mean, it didn't roll up. This grass is a little bit less than well manicured. But anyway, guys, here's all I'm gonna say. Stay tuned for the Unbox Build radio setup. This thing actually went relatively smooth. We had some trouble gluing the tails on because there's just a lot of like tight spots where you have to get wires laid down in so you can make it all fit. But honestly, I feel like it was great. Love that it's already got flaps installed, factory installed flaps. You know I love flaps, I love LEDs. I would always like to see a forward facing or a tail indication with a white light. Helps a lot with having 3 points because you can tell the pitch of the plane when you're coming in for landing. And then to get the nav lights farther away from the white lights is always helpful. That's why a nose light on a jet is super helpful because you can really triangulate what the position is of the plane. In this case, I felt like the red and green lights were a little bit hard to see, but they're still cool and it does help a little bit because when you get into the horizon that's like this blue color, look at the plane up there.
Kind of like that blue color.
Yeah, it's a perfect match. So like over on this side where the sun is, it gets shadowed, but then over there, then it picks up all the sun and it matches the sky color perfectly. So you are gonna get that with some liveries and at certain times of the day. If we had white clouds up there, it would show up really good. So we're definitely gonna be doing second thoughts on this. So don't think this is all you're gonna get. But for now, this one's with ordnance. We almost never Maiden with ordnance, by the way. But that thing did really good. I bet we're gonna get about 30 seconds longer flight time without ordnance. So we could probably do close to a 5-minute flight time. Also, we're gonna try it on a 3200 6S Smart Pack as well. And but for now, this is all you get because our weather windows have been so tight. We really apologize, guys. That's what happens in winter. So stay tuned. Unbox Build and Radio Setup is coming next. And by the way, leave the comments in the video description below if you're enjoying the higher quality videos. Let us know. If you don't care, then we're gonna probably go back to the crappier version. Just kidding, we probably won't do that. But it does take up a ton of memory to have 4K footage, just so you know.
And it's only been a couple
it's only been like
of
three
videos,
videos.
3 or 4, yeah.
Yeah, so I mean, for us, it's like 20 videos when we put them together. But anyway, all right, guys, by the way, the ordnance, super easy to take off on an F-15 because it's all on one rail on both wings. And yes, this thing is gonna look sweet without the ordnance. It's kind of funny because I love the way the ordnance looks on a lot of these jets, but I actually like them naked better because that's kind of the way I see them in real life. You know, I'm not in a war-torn country, thank God for that every day, But the truth is, I don't see them flying around with missiles on, and you know, I don't have to run and hide when I see them either. So that is a good thing also. So thank you to our armed forces for keeping us safe here and keeping peace on Earth. Merry Christmas. Happy New Year. YouTube is Rod Phillips. What do we have here? We have the twin 64mm F-15. I've been waiting on this one for a long time. So we're super excited to be able to bring this to you from Arrows. Plural, Arrows.
Good job.
See how I did that? What is that they say about teaching old dogs new tricks?
It's pretty hard to do, trust me.
It's miraculous. Oh yes, look at this beautiful thing right here. Yes, I've been eyeing this thing for a long time. And fortunately for you guys, when we started working with Arrows, see, again, they agreed to send us this one for evaluation. And then you guys can make your decision on if you love it as much as I did. And I kind of assume at this point I'm gonna love it, but we'll find out very shortly. All right, so first things first, let's get this thing cut opened. I've noticed a similarity with Arrow's products. All of them seem to kind of come in this type of box where the foam is exposed on the bottom. And yet we haven't had any issues at all. You pull the lid off. Simple packaging, works good. Okay, and we do have an open flame back here, so I won't be able to keep this quite as visible. Yeah, fire on Brian Phillips RC might not be the best option.
Not today, anyway.
Not today. We'll save that for after Christmas. Okay, so let's cut this thing open. As per usual, you guys have already seen this fly, and we are still completely in the dark, having no clue how awesome it really is. Oh, look at this. I can't even finish opening it. Look at this ordnance. So gorgeous. It's one of the most gorgeous missiles and tanks I've ever seen in my life. That looks pretty good. Okay, so that's gonna go on each side. So there's a missile rail on either side of an F-15. I typically do not fly with ordnance, but I do have a strong appreciation for the ability to do so, which is a nice way of saying we might fly with it, we might not. Uh-oh. It's stuck. Oh, just foam. Okay, so beautiful decals here, help cover up some of the wires. Looks like we've got LEDs on here, the simulated glowing panels, which is so cool. Yes, inboard flaps, baby. I don't even know if this is the right one, but I'm just gonna see if it fits real quick because I cannot resist. Oh, come on now. Does that go back? Oh, I suppose if it's the wrong one, it may not line up very good. Oh, look at that. That is so cool. This is an unbox. Brian, control yourself. Control yourself, Brian.
Got 2 pieces out of the box and they're already put together.
You need to finish unboxing it first, Brian.
Take out all the pieces.
Don't screw around. Get it out of the box first. Okay, so we've got the vertical stabilizer and rudder. Yes, Rudders, awesome. There is a paint job that lines up with the decal. Very cool. I'm glad to see that the gray here is hard to match, just like I try to match. I love that they covered that up. Mm-hmm. It just covers up, I mean, it's not like we're trying to hide the fact that there's a servo there, except that we kind of are. I mean, everybody knows there's a servo there.
Did you say, is that the rudder or the elevator?
That's actually a great point. That is the elevator. I thought it was a vertical stabilizer, but I am mistaken. That is definitely an elevator. Oh. Thank you, camera crew, for catching my huge, embarrassing gaffe. Thank you for publicly displaying that I screwed that up. I appreciate that very much.
Well, if I don't say it, somebody's going to in the comments.
Don't worry. On YouTube, if you don't catch your own mistakes and correct them, somebody will immediately. And then 455.7. Well, it used to be, okay, so YouTube, in their vast, infinite wisdom, was afraid of like kids that were having problems staying alive after being scrutinized by their peers. And so, oh, I put those in the wrong spot, I think. Dang it. So what happened was they took the comments, and instead of having comments like all together, like some sort of a community, you know, of gathered people, like-minded people that you might want, they made them individual transactions of commentary. So you have to go through and see each of the individual back and forths, which, you know, there's a certain amount of niceness to that, but it's mostly stupid if you ask me, because really, I would like you guys to be able to talk amongst yourselves also. Okay, so that's the top layer of the cake.
Interesting.
It has been quite impressive. The packaging on the Arrows models have been very good, consistently good. I don't think we've had any damage. Did we have one that was damaged?
No. That box was damaged, but it didn't even...
Yeah, the box, actually we've had a few that have been damaged.
But we haven't had any
never been
plain
damaged inside. Now we've had other manufacturers with damage from packaging, and that's just a shipping thing. And you know, during peak season especially, and our poor mail people are just like, wow, these guys get a lot of packages.
Yeah.
So I don't know about you, but
big packages.
my blade was kind of dull, so I was thinking about switching it, and then I flipped it to the other side. It was like 100 times worse. So I'm like, okay, we're not gonna switch that. And when you use a dull blade, they say it's dangerous, but I guess I'm gonna live life dangerous. All right, oh my goodness, that is absolutely gorgeous. Look at that bad mama jamma.
Oh, wow.
Wow. That canopy is gorgeous. It's got raised ribs here. That is so, so beautiful. It's the most beautiful thing I've ever seen in my life.
Thanks.
You're welcome. That is so cool. So super excited. I've only done one F-15 out of all the planes I've done. And I really do like the F-15. I love, love, love this. Look how beautiful that is. The thrust tubes on the F-15 being exposed as they are. It's just so gorgeous that they did that. And I'm still waiting for one of our RC manufacturers to do the lit night glowing panels on the aircraft, because that would be so sweet.
That would be cool.
Even if it was cheating and it was just like an LED that made the panel glow, that would be so cool. But man, that is absolutely gorgeous. Absolutely gorgeous. The decals need a little bit of pressure to collapse into the cracks here, and a couple of bumps. But beyond that, I would say that they're really, really nice. And there are a lot of decals, but I am noticing, okay, so time for complaints. I'm noticing that these decals do need to be pushed down quite a bit. See this?
Oh, yeah.
I mean, not like a huge issue, but you start going 100 miles an hour, I'm pretty sure that's not gonna work well, and you're gonna have to push them down. See, like that one's curled? Again, not a huge issue. They probably had a little extra humidity in the air wherever they were doing this, on the 64th floor. And it's not Shanghai. What's it called? What's the city where they make like all the...
Shenzhen.
Shenzhen, China. Shenzhen, where all your dreams come true. All of them. What, you have a problem with this commentary, camera crew? She's afraid there may be repercussions on our livelihood here, our newfound livelihood of unboxing airplanes and then flying them. Okay, so do you notice how I just took that apart?
This is unboxing.
This is the unbuilding. We unbuild things here on Brian Phillips RC. We show you how hard it is to put it back in the box to return to Shenzhen, China. Okay, so there's a magnet in there. Hard tip, foam, magnet. Watch. Goodness gracious, camera crew, could you give me a hand? No, I meant back here. Goodness gracious. Oh yes, that looks so good. All right, so we have some vertical stabilizers. I know I tricked you guys earlier when I was jokingly mentioned that the elevator was the horizontal stabilizer. You knew, I knew better. Okay, so Oregon, look at this, beautiful, loving it. So I have done a couple of planes with double tails, and I've had adverse roll induced by all of them. What the heck, why is that cut like that? That's so strange. Why would that be cut like that? It looks like it's very intentional too. I don't know, I don't really care that much, not a big deal. But that is gorgeous. I wonder if it was just cut wrong, like on the plotter. Because these decals are really nice.
Yeah, they are.
They're just not stuck down on the edges everywhere, which is weird. I've never seen that before.
There's a lot of decals though.
There's a ton of decals. I bet that added a lot of cost to this airplane. So for those of you at home that don't realize that things cost money, they do. So when you see a plane's got like 475 decals on it, there's some poor guy or gal in Shenzhen that has to put them on, okay? So, and I prefer that they do it because they're very good at it.
It's my favorite tiny nutsack.
That's a bolt sack. Thank you very much. Just wanted to correct you. Since we do that, obviously, freely on Brian Phillips RC. That's right. I'll take it. Okay, this appears to be carbon fibery, and I can see through it. It's got kind of a thick wall on it. Definitely sturdy, definitely carbon fiber, because it sounds like metal. If it was plastic, it would sound like donk. That's the noise people think you'll hear when you fly radio-controlled airplanes, and yet it doesn't sound like that. It sounds like, ow, oh, why'd you hit me? Get out of here. That's what it sounds like.
That's not what I said.
Moment's quiet. Here's an operating instructions.
Also not folded. Not
folded. Thank you, arrows. Arrows, all 2 of them. That's everything, guys. So, are you kidding me? That's the bolt and nutsack.
Yeah, that's why I said.
Wow.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5.
I love you. I love you, arrows.
Are we gonna have to glue if there's only 5?
Maybe you have to glue it and screw it.
Oh.
Well, this box obviously needs a little help staying up. So we're gonna put it right there. Beautiful. All right, guys, we're gonna take a second, put away the foam, and we'll be right back with the plane stand. It's gonna be exciting. All right, guys, so we're gonna build this twin 64 millimeter Arrows F-15, which is gonna be awesome. But just to review real quick, we're gonna use the NX8, has been very good. They sent along 3200 6S Arrows pack, and we'll use this. And then an AR-631, which is exactly what I like to use when not in conjunction with a vector stabilizer, in which case you can use the cheaper, significantly cheaper AR-620. So this is gonna give us full telemetry, well, not full telemetry, but it's gonna give us flyby telemetry, and it's gonna give us basically 6 channels plus some extra channels for gains, which is really nice when you pair it up with an NX8, so you don't have to give anything up, which is pretty sweet. So that being said, there are retracts on this plane, there are flaps, there are obviously elevators, rudder, and then ailerons, plus throttle, so that's 6. So you're gonna be using up all the channels, and then we'll have master gain, and then safe on off, or safe AS3X, or the mode change. So we are gonna be using all the channels. We're gonna go through the full radio setup after we're done with the build. The build should be pretty straightforward. Looks like we've only got 4 screws and then a little bit of glue. They suggest a medium CA. I don't have anything against using CA, but typically when I put stuff together, I like to use China glue or foam to foam in this case. And my tube is getting to where it's almost out. So hopefully I will have some more of that soon. But in the meantime, we also use another product called mucilage, which is something that is similarly good. It just dries out a little bit quicker in the tubes. So I am more reluctant to use it because I don't want to open it and then have it dry out. So, but if you burn through this as quick as we do, it should not be a general problem. Word of warning, I've had mucilage where I have bought large tubes and they have been dry when I cut them open. Mm-hmm. This is never gonna be dry when you open it. So, first step I'm gonna do, we get the plane on a plane stand. Ordinarily, I would do my gluing first, but it's dark, so we're gonna be sitting overnight, no big deal. And this stuff will basically be set up. It is a contact adhesive, so you set it on both sides of the control surface to be attached, and then you basically glue it on. So the instructions call out what step first?
Wings with the screws.
Okay, I'm gonna do that next because I don't wanna be fighting the wings. The wings just make the fuse bigger.
Yeah.
So I'm gonna start with the rudders. Whoa, look at that.
What was that?
Is something coming off on me from one of these materials? I think as I've been rubbing this, there's some glue that came off of it. See that on the rag? What the heck? Okay, so be aware of that. I'm sure it's totally healthy, good stuff since it's made in China. All right, so we have the rudder assemblies that go like this, correct? Yep, because the silver's inside. So this rudder pays special attention to the fact that your brown lines up with your brown, okay? So this is gonna be a tricky glue job because I'm gonna have to glue this while it's connected, okay? So if in doubt, you can test your servos before you glue. I'm not in doubt because I trust that these are gonna be good. There is a gap down here under where my finger is. I can't lift the plane. So when this drops down, it's gonna go into this pocket, but there's gonna be a little bit of a tail of wire that comes out. Okay, so just look at this. I'm gonna push this down, and I just wanna know where it's gonna land so that I can manipulate the glue into an appropriate location. You see where I'm fighting there, camera crew? I'm just gonna try to get this to go down in there. And I'm just having a real hard time getting that wire down. I'm gonna use a Q-tip.
I was gonna say I should have grabbed your forceps.
Nah, I don't think we're gonna need it. Okay, then this is gonna flop down flat, I believe. Looks like they gave us slack on the wrong end of that. Maybe not. Okay, so then that went down just fine, okay? So that's the way it's gonna glue together, but obviously in this case, I actually need to glue it together. So I don't have any glue on either of the surfaces, but now that I know kind of where it's gonna go, I'm gonna go ahead and pull that slack back out, which pains me to do that, because I know it's gonna be a bit of a pain to get it back in there. Okay, so when I open this, since I just squeeze this tube to get everything up there to the top, it's probably gonna wanna like come out all over the place.
Yeah.
So I'm gonna have my rag ready, just in case. Hey, we're doing good. It didn't go out everywhere. There is a little bit of pressure on it. So one thing about this tube of foam to foam, if you get this for yourself, just be aware it is an aluminized tube, and those things hold their shape a little bit, so when you squeeze on the side of it, it'll keep gooping for a minute after you let go and you have intended to stop the flow of glue. And this is a contact adhesive, like I said, so basically what you're gonna do is you're gonna get it on both sides. Actually, we're good, so it stopped. And once you get it on both surfaces, I usually take and will kind of use a Q-tip to spread it around. CA, medium CA would be fine. That is what's recommended. There's certainly nothing wrong with that. I'm not trying to dispute the technical request of using medium CA. It's just that I don't have good medium CA in my opinion right now. So I'm using this, and I like China glue is probably my favorite way to glue things together on models because it gives you a little bit more time to work. Okay, now down here, there's a piece of tape. That's gonna pull this thing down. There's two vertical stabilizers and rudders, and then two horizontal stabilizers with elevators, okay? These have to be glued in, which means we have to actually, plug these things in. Okay, so while that sets up for a minute, we're gonna actually turn the plane around because it does take a good minute for this glue to set up. That is something that's a little bit different than CA. CA is a little quicker, a little bit easier. This is gonna end up getting missed. So I'm just gonna throw it in right now. Okay. This is the carbon fiber spar wing joiner, and I'm just slipping it through the fuse. Absolutely gorgeous fit, no problems there. Okay, so same thing over here with the other vertical stabilizer. As I do this, I'm gonna be mindful of the fact that my glue is gonna be on here and I don't wanna get it on the finished part. So I'm gonna just set them out like this. So the brown is gonna go to the brown. So you're gonna have to get creative. I cannot do any better than that. You see, brown goes to brown. I haven't been known to make mistakes of hooking these in backward. It is not easy to do that. You have to work at it to plug those in wrong. and I've done it before, A10. The A10, I plugged them in wrong. And then I had to unglue the whole tail surface. That was a pain. Okay, so now I'm gonna drag this over. You're gonna have to get creative because I can't really do a lot with this here, camera crew. Okay, so caps off. A little bit of glue in there. As you can see, this build is not gonna be an especially difficult one, but there's a little bit of technical skill involved with gluing. It's not hard, it just takes a little bit of practice to get it right. You have a few wings fly off and hit you in the head, and then you'll learn your lesson. That's just a joke, guys. Relax. It's not gonna hit your head unless you do it wrong. So once that glue is on there, same exact procedure. And then about the time we're done with this procedure, we can go ahead and go back to putting the other one on and switch spots, which is the key. You see how that's getting stringy on us? That is a good thing. Okay, and then this glue, there's quite a little bit more in there, so I'm gonna get glue up on the sides. Now, China glue speaks to the glue that is used in Chinese modeling. It is not meant to be some sort of a racial insult in any way, so don't misunderstand, guys. But yes, it is made and used in China a lot. And you see that stuff? See how it's stringy? I don't know if you guys can pick that up on camera. Looks like a spider web, okay? So once it starts doing that, you're probably about good to actually plug things together. Keep in mind, it's a contact adhesive, so if you do it wrong, you will not be able to slide the components together. So like you gotta put this in here. See how I slid that along my hand? It'll stick and you won't be able to get it down. If that happens, re-glue both surfaces and it will slide into place, but it'll still work. Okay, so now we're gonna just kinda work with this one for a minute and lay that back down, which means we gotta be careful it doesn't flop out of the way and fall into the glue or something.
I'm gonna need to hold.
Yeah, I think it's gonna be okay.
Okay.
So now on this one, again, taking a Q-tip, that's just what's lying around. If I had a flat bladed screwdriver, you could use that. Push that wire in, and then I'm gonna let that wire drop down. There is a bit of a cavity to receive that end, but then just make sure you tuck in your rudder label. Okay, see what I'm talking about? Now, as I push this down in here, it should slide down in and be received by the fuselage. But you do have to be mindful that you're tucking that connector in the right spot, or you won't get a good purchase like what we've got going on here. I'm not sure if that thing is all the way down. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna pull it apart before it sticks totally. Yeah, I think we're okay except for that one little wire. So this wire, see how it's stringing up? That's good. I'm gonna push this down just like that. You see what I did, guys? That's pretty easy. And I'm gonna pull that into position as I try to locate it. Okay, probably use a little bit more glue in this joint. But I'm gonna push that down. And then over here, you see how this isn't collapsed all the way? I think what's going on is I need to rotate this a little bit. I don't like that fit. It's a little bit challenging actually, which is weird. Now I'm pushing over here, so if you want to show them from this angle, you see how there's a gap here? I'm pushing this and you see how that pushes over? So that's where your CA would give you some level of advantage. CA is going to be a little bit simpler to work with. Also, I picked the vertical stabilizer and I think we could have done the horizontal stabilizers first. And it's kind of like, you know, it's not really a big difference. I just don't want the wings in the way while I'm doing this because I'm gonna have to flip this potentially for the elevators. Now, if you wanna come around, we'll show them the other side. I'm gonna do the same thing. This wire is not gonna interfere as bad because it doesn't have a weird tangle in it. And I'm just referring to a little bit of memory on the cable, not like it's damaged or anything. Okay, so same thing as before. Just make sure that you don't stress it so you unplug the cable somehow. Now, some of you guys are gonna be inclined to take this finish off and so you get a better bite on the material, and that's perfectly fine. Oh, that one fit better, see?
It did.
That one went in a lot better. So I don't know if I did something wrong or if it's maybe just kind of the nature of the mold. Now look inside here. I wanna show you people at home. You see this gap here? There's just a really small gap. And so I believe when I put on the elevator, That's gonna compress this spot here.
Pull it all together a little
Yeah, it's gonna push it together. So now we're not glued, so I can probably show the people on this one. Okay, so we'll pull that down. See, it's also gonna cover up where the wires are exposed. So you're gonna wanna make sure that you tuck that little bit of wire up. The thing that's so nice about this glue is you would think, you know, some people have said you have to wait like 24 hours. Look, I just glued it, okay? Like seconds ago. I'm gonna flip this over. That spar is in there tight, by the way, so it won't pop out. The size of this aircraft is great. It's a really good size. It's big enough to see from a distance, but it's not small enough to, you know, have that non-effect. You know, like if you have a real small plane, they always fly kind of weird. Or they don't fly as scale, I think, when they're super small. When they're bigger, they take up a lot more room in your house, which is a big factor when you got lots of planes. But they're so much better presence and so much cooler to see fly, in my opinion. But they're also more expensive. They use bigger batteries, and those are things that you have to balance for your lifestyle. So, okay, so now that we're done with that part, I'm gonna go ahead and start getting glue on this. Now we already have a little bit of glue on this surface, and then I believe I can go ahead and glue this surface. So I do need to work somewhat fast because this stuff, once it sets up to the point where it's super tacky, it is very hard to get a positioning issue fixed. Okay, so we have this connector. This is the elevator, and this actually is the wrong one. This is the one I want for this side. Okay, so I need to get glue on this side as well. And there's no really super easy way to do this. You just kind of have to spread the glue. And if you're using CA, I could definitely see how that would be an advantage here. It'd be a lot easier, but CA has a tendency to be quite brittle once it sets up. And so I'm not a huge fan of CA in this application. And by the way, if you think I'm wrong, go to a Chinese plant once or watch a video on YouTube or whatever, and you will see they do not use CA to mount main components together like this. CA is a function of easy for customers to do. So the manufacturers recommend that because they figure they're gonna have better outcome. If you can use the China glue, you're gonna get it just like they do at the factory. In case you guys are wondering. And if you think I'm full of it, just check it out yourself. It's very common. Okay, so this is gonna be back here, but I think there's also, you could also go that way. Not 100% sure what this little channel's for. Maybe it's like a design change, possibly. And look, there, you could actually glue right here. So I'm gonna actually do that. I'm gonna try to stuff this in there and just get a little bit of glue on it. And then that'll help me hold that in position there. See that? That might have been what I missed. See what happens when you glue it and you don't let it set? It just kind of pulls away right away. Yeah. I'm gonna do the same thing over here while I can for a minute. Okay, see I'm just squishing that in there. That'll actually get a little bit of that goop on there. All right, so now that this is set up for just a minute, we'll actually go ahead and assemble this side before we do the other side. All right, so brown is toward my belly and brown is here. Okay, so I'm gonna see what I'm doing. I'm just rolling this up, this little label. You could just rip it off there if you needed to, but I'm just gonna do that and let it sit. These little clipping plugs are fine. Can you hold that right there? Nope, forceps time. I think forceps are gonna be helpful enough to justify my walking across the room to grab them. You don't have to have them, but it's definitely, when you're dealing with connectors like that, it is really nice to have them. And if you don't have a pair of forceps, also known as hemostats, these things are awesome. See how they clip together? I think I gave like $7 or something for these at my local hardware store. You can buy them on Amazon. We have links that are on some of our videos, and it's one of those links that we end up pulling off of there if we run into problems like you're limited to so many characters. Hold that tight. Don't let it move, please. Okay. But you see, I can clip it. Then that gives me the ability to do that with limited dexterity. You got to let that go like this.
Okay.
Otherwise, I can't plug it in. That's not a very fun step. I do not like that step, but it is kind of what it is. If you have too much slack on there, then you can't hide the cable very well. Okay. But I'm just gonna say, admittedly, that was not a very fun step. I did not like doing that. That was a pain. But, you know, it wasn't like Dynam style.
No. And once it's done, it's
once
done.
it's done, it's done. It's not that big a deal. But I just want to let you guys know here on Brian Phillips RC, we don't just sugarcoat everything and say it's the best and greatest and easiest and you're never going to have a problem and it's perfect and there's never a problem. What's the point of watching a review online if all it is just sugars and roses? Because that's just a waste. It's an insult of your intelligence, really. So we show you the way it is and let you know where we're concerned. Generally speaking, though, I think on an F-15, the way that the wings are going to come off, I don't know that any of the other manufacturers do a whole lot better. I can't even remember how the E-flite one went together.
Well,
but it's been some time, and that's a far less sophisticated plane too.
Yeah, you have a lot more cabling involved on this one.
We are not going to crash this into the Eagle killing zone. I'm going to pay special attention not to do that.
I can't say that.
Why? You think I'm going to jinx it?
Yeah.
I don't think I'm going to jinx it. Okay. I think I'm going to be motivated not to crash into it. So this is, for those of you that have no clue what we're talking about, the Eagle killing zone is where I crashed the Horizon one, which is another F-15 Eagle, but it doesn't have retracts or flaps. It's definitely not as beautiful as this. Is that a twin? It is a twin something, but I don't remember. No, it's a single 70. I think it's 170.
Is it a 70?
Yeah.
Okay. Like
so it's just a different setup. And if you guys like that plane, you can also buy that from Arrows. If you like supporting Arrows, you can buy the Horizon stuff from them too. We support the people that send us stuff. So we do have a bit of a conflict when we run into products that are sold by both two, sometimes competitive companies. So we try to be a little bit respectful of that stuff. But we appreciate both companies. They're both good. They both have their specialties, let's say, so to speak. And Arrow's Hobby Zone has done a great job on a lot of the stuff. We're super impressed with working with them. Okay, so we've got that glue spread out, and I'm gonna get some more glue on this, and it looks like we're about ready to spend this thing. We have used this tube of foam to foam forever.
A long time.
Which is really nice. So if you buy it and you're like, man, that's kind of expensive. Well, to be perfectly frank, it's not that expensive compared to CA, it's a lot cheaper. So if you guys are looking for a good glue product, we've been super impressed with the foam to foam. And we were kind of mucilage lovers before, and now we're very happy with this. And I've used other foam tack products and not been impressed. In fact, I have some foam tack downstairs. I think it's called foam tack. And it's like a hobby grade product, you know, for like doing decorations and, you know, like building what women might use for, you know, like bracelets and stuff like that. That's what I mean by hobby grade. Not, you know, like build something that's going to go 100 miles an hour in front of you for enjoyment. I suppose you could do that with your bracelets if you wanted.
I just think it's funny that you say we, like I have an opinion on glue or a preference.
You do. You do. You and I talk about glue a lot. I mean, it's like the kids, then like what's for dinner, and then glue. Then, you know, I mean, it's up there.
I just want to know when I'm getting bracelets.
I mean,
Oh, I have to make them myself.
Yeah, you have to.
Oh.
It's not the kind with like diamonds on them. What are you talking about? Jeez. You think we have money left after all this?
Christmas tree back there behind you.
Oh, that's scary. She has said it out loud. Dang it. For those of you that aren't married, you won't have a clue what's going on. Well, maybe you will. Maybe you were married.
She didn't get a bracelet.
She didn't get a bracelet. Hey, how about we try this different? You're going to hold that thing.
The connector?
Yep.
Oh, man, really?
Yeah, really. Okay. Like actually hold it. And I'm going to actually stick this thing into your hole.
You know, I'm filming too, right?
Listen, we need a record of it. Okay, let go. I need to go like this now. No, you don't have to hold it anymore.
Okay.
I'm going to try. See, these forceps open up pretty wide too, so I'm going to try to do this a different way now. These safety clips, these like retention clips, sometimes are a little bit harder to plug in. It's mostly because there's glue on both surfaces, and it's just dang awkward. And I'm trying to stay out of the way so the camera can see what's happening. There we go. Okay. So again, it's not like it's that hard. It's just kind of awkward. And if there was an easier way, I'm pretty sure they would have us do it the easier way. It's not like these manufacturers are like, how can we make their lives difficult?
Wow, dynamite.
Yeah, the Dynam, definitely. They're like, how can we keep the Americans tied up so we can invade?
Oh my.
Where are they coming from again?
Shenzhen.
Shenzhen?
We're probably
Floor 50,
so
floor
wrong.
57.
63.
63, sorry. Oh
We
boy.
don't live in the city.
Okay, so.
Well, that was fine.
Yeah, I know, but this does make me kind of a little bit concerned. Now, another thing too, medium CA is a slight gap filling properties compared to a thin CA where it'd be like water almost, just kind of like flows through, then comes out and goes all over your finish. So that's one thing that's nice about this glue, but in this case, there is one spot right here on the bottom of this plastic I didn't recognize we were gonna be gluing to it, okay? So like if you were in duress at this point of your build and you said, hey, how do I glue that? Well, you could actually take some CA and glue that into position right there. And you could just let it flow into that area, use a little bit of kicker, and that would hold a little nicer for you. I'm not sure if that's gonna be an issue yet. All I'm sure of is this thing looks freaking awesome and it's only like half put together. I am a little bit weirded out by the fact that we had to glue those on.
Why? Weirded out?
Huh?
Weirded out?
I'm weirded out by the fact that we had to glue that together. I feel like there's some vulnerabilities to getting that wrong for some, like I'm not saying that, we're anything special for assembly. If anything, we're like worse than average. We just share it. But the thing is, when at the end of the day on this model, what I'm saying is that I feel like that would be a place where it'd make really good sense to like have everything held together with screws.
Well, this is probably not a beginner.
No, this is not a
plane
beginner
either.
plane. No, which is another thing to keep in mind, folks, when you are watching Brian Phillips RC, we try to keep you up to speed on what we believe to be true. Okay, so did you see that?
Did it just pop down?
No, I pushed it down. So you see this? There's a little bit of glue seeping out. If you get that with a clean Q-tip, it'll just come right off of there and you'll never know it was even there. If you wait too long, you have to cut them. We see this gap opening? It's actually not a big problem because once that sets up, I'll just squish it together. And once that sets up a little bit more, it won't come apart. So I'm not sure. Maybe the CA on this one would be a little bit easier in general, but then can you imagine you've got that cable sitting there, you put your CA on and then you push it together and you just let go and it's done. That would be nice. But if you do all that stuff and then you get it wrong, it's gonna suck. Okay, so we don't need to glue the main wing on.
No.
Okay.
Just screw.
All right, cool. So there's 2 plugs on each of these. And we have 4 screws total. And the ordnance, of course, can slide on and off. This is looking sweet. I am super excited to do this. We'll go ahead and do this side first. Okay. So there's wires in here. Of course, now I need my forceps. These things are tucked in here really nastily. See this?
Nastily?
Nastily. Okay. So we're gonna put this on the carbon fiber wing joiner, wing spar. We're gonna rock it a little bit. Rock it a little bit. Okay. And then this one's labeled as flap, so we're hoping that they're correct in that assessment. Now, for those of you that are like, Brian, I wanna do flap runs and flaps, can you do it? The answer is yes. You could do a full length flap run if you wanted, but I feel like the F-15 is gonna be better with an inboard flap because of the shape of the body. So I am not doing that. Now on the F-18, and I know that the big birds do that, they also have leading edge slats, which are like a flap that comes down on the front of the wing. I believe the F-15 has both. Most of the modern jets do, because you have a huge flight envelope in modern fighter jets. And they have a huge difference in weight bearing capabilities. And then they're expected to do all that with high G maneuvers with like missiles and stuff hanging off of there. People don't think about it, but the weight difference between an unloaded and loaded F-15 or F-16 or F-18, I mean, it's like the difference of like multiple family cars in fuel. Then you add some ordnance and it's like it's like a whole group of cars. It's crazy when you think about it. The amount of crap that's on these airplanes. They are purpose built. That's why you got to use like, you know, crazy exotic materials to build materials and all that. Like titanium. This step is kind of awkward. I'm not gonna lie. I'm not thrilled with the way that this step is going. It's kind of the same scenario. I wonder why they don't have the quick disconnects. I think it's kind of before they started putting those on all the planes.
Mm-hmm. There's just not enough room for both of those.
Well, no, they're going into the wing, but you see how they stay out? They don't go into the fuse. They stay in the wing. Oh, yeah, buddy. That was not bad. That would just look like it was gonna be bad, and I was expecting the worst because I built a lot of dynoms in my day. For those of you that aren't up to speed with why we beat up on dynam, because they're dynam. And if you've ever built one, you'll understand. Okay, so they gave you an extra screw in the bag, which is pretty sweet. These are driven by a 2mm hex end driver. So we had a wonderful subscriber that finally sent us this, and then he actually sent us a plane stand too. It's been like, gosh, like almost a year or something, probably a little longer, a couple years maybe.
I'm trying to think if that's been since we have been here.
Yeah, it has been. Okay, so I'm getting alignment there. I'm not sure if that's because I need to press harder or if I'm doing something wrong. I don't know what I'm doing wrong. I need to probably try to squeeze the fuse, but I got to be careful not to screw up what I've already built. And I don't want to damage this, so I'm pushing in hard. That is one thing that has been getting better and better with every build. There we go. It just bit.
Yep.
Is that the joints that are screwed together, you know how I was complaining about those tail feathers? The joints, I need you to help me probably on this. I'm gonna have you push on here at this angle.
Okay.
Okay?
Yep.
Relatively hard. Yep, it's going. Just keep going, keep going, keep going, keep going, keep going. Okay, let go. See, what I'm having her do is once we get one point established, we can pivot, but then I'm holding into the plane stand, and that gives us somewhere to lever on. Okay, so it works really nice. Look at these decals. Let's just take a minute. Let's just take a minute and look at how perfect the alignment is here. Yep. Could you do that on your own? No. And I know some of you could, but the thing is we wouldn't be doing it separately. We'd be doing one piece. But can you imagine just how big of a pain that would be? That would be a crazy pain. It'd be a huge pain. So super, super thrilled with just how nice the finish is on everything. Weirdly enough, even with all that being said, I'm very disappointed with the curls on the edges. I'm afraid we're gonna lose decals. So I've been going through pressing them as I see them, but we're inevitably gonna miss some. So definitely take the time and check the edges of your decals like this, because it feels like maybe that's just a thing. I mean, they're absolutely gorgeous decals, by the way. Oh, by the way, this livery, if you don't like this livery, you can take all these decals off, but you're gonna rip up the paint. I guarantee it. I'm gonna give you the 100% guarantee that that's gonna happen. Yeah. So if you don't love the paint job, you're gonna have to be doing massive paint work on this. And that's not to say that this plane isn't worth it. It's, you know, to all their own. That's just something that I want you guys to be aware of. Okay, so we gotta do this again. Coming back to the forceps already. You remember earlier when you were like, hey, do you want me to get the forceps? And I was like, no. Yeah. We don't need those.
So what you're saying is I was right.
I never said you were wrong. I just wasn't admitting defeat yet. Okay, so you see that inside there? Oh my goodness. You see that? Can you see that? Turn the flash on, see if that helps. You guys see what I'm seeing? There's the wires for the LEDs in there. Mm-hmm. Can you focus on that so they can see and then zoom?
Yeah.
You can't do that?
It's not gonna focus.
Yes, it will. It's gonna be perfect too.
You're making the people seasick.
No. Dang it. Okay, all right, so the camera crew wins again. I hate being wrong so many times in the same video.
What were you seeing in there? Can you just tell?
It was a JST connector for the lights.
Oh, okay.
So the reason I showed them is, did you see where it was? It's way down here. So if you ever have a problem with your LED lighting, it's gonna suck because you're gonna have to cut out an access. It looks like there's an access hatch in here. So when you get through that, oh, by the way, I never really showed, these are pretty stiff and strong. Also, I like where the LED is. I mean, it's obviously a scale appearance thing, but I like that the LED is out here. It's gorgeous, it's tucked in, it's gonna glow. These things are very bright, but I don't know if you're gonna see them from the opposite side. So just keep in mind, sometimes nav lights are really good for like night ops, and sometimes they're just an awesome scale feature. I do believe firmly that all these models that are coming out should have LEDs anymore. And the reason they should is A, LEDs are cheap. B, with the way the FAA is acting, you know, at some point with remote ID and all that, we're gonna need to do it by rule anyway. So it might as well just have the nav lights on them now. That is pretty hard to get in there. Oh my goodness. Okay, so the flap is here and I'm paying attention to my colors. The yellow is kind of like away from my belly toward the camera crew or you guys. Okay, so that's clipped in. Then we have brown is up. Okay, now you guys see what I did? Because this one was so hard to push in, if you have problems with this, you can actually put some glue on, or not glue on there. I meant to say Dawn dish detergent or some sort of dish detergent, and it will make it slick. Just like we've lubricated some screws when we try to put them into the wings and they're tough. Okay, so remember, we want to be pushing straight. Now this one does not have a recess either. See, that's just like a round opening. I think you might be able to possibly put those in. At least one of them might, but I think it's better to just put them in the wing. I think that's where they're supposed to go.
Once you got them started on that other side.
They were fine.
Yeah.
Yeah, but this side's so hard to push in, see? Like it's, you don't want to crush the foam trying to push your wing together. Okay, so now that's lined up. Oh yeah, get in there. Get in there. Boy, that's really, really tight, way tighter than the other side. I think probably what happened is my wing spar was like not centered. It should have been centered first.
So now you're pushing the wing spar through and pushing it on?
But I'm just trying to keep my alignment so I don't crush something. Oh yeah, very good. But as you can see, what I'm doing is when I push really hard like that, like I can squish this foam and make a nasty squish part. So what I want to do is I want to use as big of a surface area on my hand, the palm of my hand as I can, and then I'm hugging it so that I spread out the load. Now you still can damage the foam, but I just want you guys to know I'd much rather have a tight fit on a wing than not. I mean, 100% of the time. Because if it's tight, then, I mean, the screws are kind of they're a non-functioning member, you know. It's more of like a pin that just keeps it there. Okay, so 2 more screws. Let's see if these ones will probably go in super easy. And all I want to do is just try to get the first tooth bit. See how it goes? Did you guys see what I did differently on this one? Okay, so imagine machine threads are very fine, okay? What I'm doing is I'm putting it at a slight angle to try to get that first thread bit, and then I immediately go up. If you go like 1 full turn, then you're gonna cross thread the hole. on the nutzer, which is the bushing type of material that's on the other side that receives the screw threads. So now this first thing you can do is just try to start it. If it doesn't start, like this one's not starting, put it in an angle, push hard, and you hear that click. Once you hear the click, you can give it like a half a turn, and then it should start like it did. And then once this goes down, the head will actually reseat the wing all the way to its home position. Okay, so that worked really good. You know, for being a complicated plane with a complicated tail design, I don't feel like that went half bad. It didn't go as smooth as our other Arrows builds though. I feel like that was probably the hardest one we've had so far.
But it's still less than 40 minutes.
Oh yeah, that's quick.
Yeah.
That's really quick, and it is absolutely gorgeous. And by the way, you start getting into jets like this, you know, I mean, just look how sweet that is. We didn't have to glue any antenna in. We didn't have any of that to do. And this looks absolutely fabulous. That is just absolutely fabulous. Cool. And it's big. Look at the thrust tubes again. They just look gorgeous.
I want to see the fan.
That is so cool. Oh, what are the fans like? Oh, that's so cool. That is so cool. I love that there's two of them. And yes, at some point, maybe there'll be some afterburners in here, depending on how things go and who reaches out to me. I know I had one particular guy that wanted me to use his afterburner and I didn't yet. But let's juxtapose it to a smaller aircraft. We just recently did this one. It's a smaller one. But just to give you an idea, it's an Eachine product. Look at the size class. Look at the difference, okay? So this is a 50 millimeter. And this is a twin 64, just to give you an idea. It is probably, I would say that it's conservatively double the size, but it's like 3 times the plane because you got flaps, you got rudders, you got retracts, you got lights. So you have all the features that it doesn't have. Now I'm not trying to take anything away from this. This is a sweet plane, by the way. But the thing is, you gotta remember, when you look at an internet image, you're gonna think, that looks great, that looks great. Why wouldn't I just get the cheaper one? Because this thing is like a feature-loaded airplane, and it's gonna be a very different flying experience, way more robust, way more fulfilling. Okay, so just to be clear, the white missiles go out like this. So I think I did actually have them right. Wait, yeah, that's correct. So I think it's gonna be easier to put them on from underneath. Okay. And like I said, ordnance, I don't usually fly with ordnance, but we're gonna probably have to do it with this plane because it's just so stinking gorgeous. And by the way, the F-15 is one of the easiest ordnance packs to install because everything sits on one rail set, which is really cool. And no, I don't think these come apart. They look like they're glued together through the rail systems. Show them up here. Because some of you are asking, can you take these missiles off? No, I don't think so. It would be cool to be able to take the drop tanks off because I'd like to be able to have the missiles and maybe not have the drop tanks. So drop tanks, although they're nice for if you have a failure for your landing gear to deploy, they're not necessarily nice because they're so big and draggy. And I mean, it's just like on a real plane, you know, you're never gonna fly with drop tanks if you don't need them. But how freaking sweet is that? Oh my goodness, that is awesome looking. Does that not look just totally sweet?
That's very cool.
Okay, so without further ado, let's check inside of this battery opening and see what it looks like while we're still in the build. I'm gonna lay this screw out of the way. We basically need to verify where we're gonna be putting everything, and I haven't actually seen inside of here. We haven't showed you guys either. Okay, so they have this here, which is nice. Grab that, lift the canopy off. Very good fit. Substantial sidewalls, that's important on a jet because the first place you're gonna break a jet is right here. And by the way, the competitor's F-18 that I showed you did have a propensity to wanna break right here, and I didn't even crash. So nice backer for the nose gear, that's good and necessary, by the way. Look, even this one's peeling, that's so strange. Looks like an EC5, okay, so that's great. The provided battery has an XT60, so we'll have to have an adapter involved. And one thing about this plane stand I'm noticing, you wanna go around the other side so you can like over there. Thank you. I'm noticing that it doesn't like sitting very well. Okay, there we go. So we've got wires here, and we've got a Velcro, and then we've got our warning about the fan. I do not know why they started putting these warnings in. The warnings don't really make sense to me because these are two EDFs. So why would you need to worry about cutting your hand on a fan?
To try pretty hard.
If you stick it up that hole, you might cut it off. So anything that'll fit inside of that hole, I would recommend highly against sticking in there. Just saying, because it's mean in there. Anyway, so on that high note, what we need to do is, there's a lot of plugs here. Oh my goodness.
Yeah, there is.
So I think what we're gonna have to do is we're gonna have to do the radio setup next, but we still have to mark CG. We still have to figure out where the battery is gonna fit. And we have to figure out what we're gonna do for battery plugs. Because the plug, oh, I think I figured out something.
Oh.
Maybe they were sending this because of the adapters. Now, if you don't already have adapters that you're gonna need, you may have to build an adapter, but XT60 is not necessarily the same as an IC5 or an EC5. The predecessor to the IC5 is the EC5. You see this? Okay. So that goes together. They're rated for a pretty high current. The XT60, of course, will not plug into this plug. But you can get adapters that will allow you to plug in. This is not even the right one. But we have adapters that will take an XT60 and then go into this. Okay, now, is that the correct way of doing things? Probably it's okay. It's not a big deal. Some of you guys are gonna beat me up for that because an XT60 is not the same rating as an XT90, which would be the equivalent size for this. So, do we have an adapter? I'm just gonna take a second and look through my adapters here. I got millions of them. And I built lots of these adapters many, many years ago. And I also built a lot of different, see, this is an XT90 to an EC5, okay? So obviously this XT90 is not gonna go with that either. But the big brother or sister to this would be the XT90 because this is an XT60. And then the little one from this would be the XT20. So, and you're like, why isn't it the 15? I know, I agree. So, this is the wrong gender, so that's not gonna work. This is a totally off the wall. Ooh, what do we have here, folks? We have an XT60 to IC5. And by the way, that thing is loose as a goose. If you ever have a loose as a goose connector, these XTs are notorious for doing this. So what I usually do is I grab a Phillips screwdriver of some sort, like this, and watch this. If that connector is loose, put that Phillips in there and watch what happens. Open the pedals. See how I open the pedals? You don't want to break them off, but you can open them. If you do break them, just build a new connector. Okay, so then take this, watch this. Way better retention, okay? So it holds it now. It would have just fallen off before. Okay, so that's a couple things to consider. So obviously this would be the battery that we were provided. Well, that one's the one that was provided with this plane. 3200 6S, 35C output. The alternative would be a 3200 6S, 30C with a smart pack, and it does have the IC5, which is compatible with an EC5 because there's a gap there. The smart pin won't be used in this application, but it won't be a problem either. I can demonstrate here. Okay, so just like that, see the pin just misses. Just like with an XT60, the pin misses when you use an EC3 and an IC3. So, without further ado, let's see how this thing fits in here now that we have the adapter on it. Jets are historically notoriously difficult to get batteries in and out of, in my opinion, and it will sometimes spoil a plane because you're sitting there trying to get a battery in, trying to get the Velcro strapped, you end up damaging the plane. So I'm hoping that isn't gonna be the case on this one. So let's see, and we'll just try sticking them both in there. Okay, so this is, why would you put this in right now? You're thinking to yourself. The reason you would do that now is because you got to be able to realize where your receiver is going to go. Okay, so you see this? That reaches all the way through, no problem. This Velcro is going to be terrible to work with right here. Just absolutely terrible. That back Velcro is going to be somewhat useless. See this? How are you going to get that tightened? Was that the cat?
No, that was me.
What are you doing under there?
I kicked the bar stool.
Stop doing that. Jeez. Okay, so I'm gonna slide this in. That's not gonna go. I gotta loosen the Velcro straps. Now these are some of the higher quality. I need you over on this side probably. So we're gonna loosen that strap. We're gonna pull it through most of the way and just barely attach it so I've got the most room possible. I'm gonna lift this. I'm gonna try to slide this in, and yes, it does go. That's good. But look at all that junk. Oh my goodness.
Where's that stuff gonna go?
I don't know, because we don't even have a receiver in here yet. Where the heck's the receiver gonna go? Okay, so yeah, we've run into this a number of different times with jets. Sometimes the manufacturers forget that, yeah, like there's gonna have to be a battery somewhere. There's gonna have to be a receiver somewhere. Just let's show you guys real quick here. You see what I'm talking about? Look at this. Look at this mess. Where are we gonna put everything? And then this strap. Okay. So I don't even know exactly how we're gonna get this to work. But I'm gonna have to figure it out here in a second. Now when we see this plane fly, it's gonna make up for a plethora of difficulty with the battery. But this is a little bit like the story I was just sharing mere seconds ago. Okay, so undoing the Velcro. Then I'm gonna pull it all the way so that I have the least amount attached as possible. And then I'm gonna slip the battery pack back in there. 3200 6S is what this plane calls for. But goodness gracious, how the heck am I gonna get a receiver in there? I wonder if I can put it on the side. Or we're gonna have to extend all these leads so we can put it up here. If it was up here, I think that'd be perfectly fine. Okay, so we gotta release this one all the way to get the battery back. Then once the battery drops down, then we're golden. Okay, see that? That's not so bad if that's where the CG works out. I would be okay with that. Okay, then tighten this up, simulate having it ready for flight. Man, there's a lot of cables there to deal with. Because like, where are you gonna put these cables, camera crew?
Yeah, I am not sure.
I am like at a loss right now for where all that junk is gonna go. Whew. I wonder if we're gonna have to untie the zip tie that they added in there, because that's probably not gonna work. Then there's a couple of Y cables. I could push those back. That should be no problem. This reminds me of the Viper Jet. Viper Jet 70 was terrible about this. The V2 was fixed. Okay, so stuff all that back there. And this looks like an LED split off. Stuff all that back there.
Is the zip tie holding extra cabling so that it could go all the way to the front?
I don't know. I'm not sure. I'm looking, but I can't tell. It sure doesn't feel like it. Okay, so let's just see what the CG looks like before I get too bent out of shape. Because honestly, let's look at the receiver too, and then we'll mark the CG. Because the CG needs to get marked, obviously. But you gotta have this thing in here somewhere. So now, in this application, maybe the AR 630 might be a better choice because then you have one less antenna to deal with. And that's the perfect time to use one of those internal antenna, not antennaless options, is when you have a plane that's really scaling, it's got lots of stuff going on. Okay. Fortunately, these things are dinky. Okay. Unfortunately, also the AR-30 has end pins as opposed to top pins. Now it depends on the application, but you can see right here, if you had end pins, you might be able to just plop that. It is a little bit longer case because the pins point that way, so it occupies a little bit deeper spot. But then maybe you could stick it there, I wonder. I know I can do this with the AR-30, so that might not be a problem. And then the other option would be to come over to this side where you've got less gear height, okay? And then just have this antenna just kind of tuck around. We'll probably tape that flat like that. But then these antenna, or these wires, they gotta reach somewhere at some point. How the heck are we gonna do that? Okay, so this is one of the rare times where I have to pause the video and think about a solution, and then we'll come right back. All right, so this is a receiver. The pins are gonna plug in like this. Okay, so we were sitting here brainstorming, looked through the manual, there's really nothing in there about it. And part of the complexity is that this is a stabilized receiver with AS3X and safe, and I wanna use both, okay? If you're doing a non-stabilized receiver, it's really not a big deal. You just plug it in, you shove it back there. But in our case, this has to be positionally true to the aircraft, either this way, this way, this way, or that way, or this way, this way, this way, or that way, okay? You can't go sideways. Has to be laterally, like, you know, this way, okay? Or this way, right? One of those directions. Now, I toyed with the concept of having it on here. Of course, that doesn't really work well because it's just awkward, but there is a bit of a void right above the battery, so I thought that might not be a terrible option. I toyed with the idea of putting it up here, which would be ideal, because then it's like really in a great spot, except then you start thinking about this, which has to drop back down in there, and that helps fill this up so that it's strong, okay? So you are not putting your receiver right there. It's not going in right there, because this is gonna fill in the whole area unless you carve it out. So then I got to thinking, what if we just took, actually, I think Megan might have said something about this, the camera crew. What if we just stuffed it in and put it on the side back here, or slide the antenna all the way back and back here. But just remember, I was measuring, that's about where the battery stops, somewhere on this fin. So that is a long ways back there. The good news is, if you can plug it in, you can probably slide it back, but then you have to stick it and hope it stays. The good news there again is when you stick it, it's probably gonna stay because there's nowhere for it to go. So it's gonna be a pain to get to the bind button if we go this way, so I feel like we're kind of married to this solution. So it's gonna be like this, and it's gonna be pointed that way, or it's gonna be pointed this way. I don't know that there's really a difference either way. I think it's about, you know, the same. So we're gonna go ahead and start doing this radio setup with the understanding that we still need to check the CG after we get this all worked out, because I can't really even get the battery in exactly the way I want until I get this in there the way I want. So it is a bit of a gamble. Now, why am I willing to gamble on this? Because knowing that generally you have to slide these batteries back further than the recommended position. The reason I'm okay with that is because this calls out a 3300 and we're using 3200. Or smart 3200, which is slightly lighter usually than a non-smart. Okay, so that all being understood, we have rudder, throttle, nothing, elevator, flap, and gear. So what's that, ailerons that wasn't labeled? So they just missed a label. And if you just kind of tug on that, you can pull this out, no problem, okay? But like you're not gonna be able to work, you know, you can't put the battery in if you pull this stuff out. So you're gonna be able to work with it just fine. And then the understanding is once it's all plugged in, you're gonna get one shot to slide it back and stick it on the side and get it far enough. Then this antenna is gonna protrude out the front, and I'll show you how I'm gonna deal with it. Of course, it's always up to you guys to do what you think is best on your models, especially in plug and flies, because plug and flies do require a little bit more expertise. This is shelf liner. I pulled the Velcro off the top. I don't even know if I can get away with this. That's why this is such a great way of doing it, because once I cut this, then if it doesn't work, I can just literally take it off. I don't like Velcro on my battery packs. So I mean, I have Velcro on that smart pack right there, but I don't like doing it that way. I feel like the only time I ever do Velcro is when I feel like there's no other option. Okay, so this shelf liner stops the batteries from sliding. See, that's with Velcro. That's without Velcro. And then this is with shelf liner. But even if shelf liner's in there and you've got Velcro, then you compromise, it doesn't work quite as good, okay? Whereas this, I mean, you can do a lot of holding with that. So I basically just make it the same size as the stickum on the back, and then I just peel and stick this, and this is really high quality stuff actually. All the manufacturers have done a great job of improving their Velcro that they provide. Okay. And of course I did kind of a poor job of lining that up, but whatever. That's good enough for what we're doing. Really the objective is to just keep the stickum from getting on the battery because I don't want to have to reuse it every time. Then you take something like this, you stick it back onto the Velcro and you're done, okay? So the reason I show that is because it's just, you're not gonna be able to see very good. So without further ado, the next step is actually gonna dive into the radio setup, which is kind of this ambiguous spot where we're between two different steps because there's not really a great way to do the next step without getting through the radio setup. So we're gonna grab our NX8, we're gonna go through the entire process of setting this up. We're gonna make a new profile in the NX8. The profile is going to, you're good to look at this, should be released. Okay, so when you first turn it on, you've got whatever model that you were using last. Back and cancel takes you there to model select. Or you can click into the function list, go to system setup, disconnect RF, and go to model select. Go to add new model. We're gonna create an acro, which is like an airplane basically. Oh, by the way, we have this open to the CG for when we're done. 125 to 135 from the leading edge, which is ironic because that little plane that we just did the other day, they said that the CG was 110 millimeters back from the leading edge of the wing. And I'm like, what Chinese prison camp did you come from? This plane's like 3 times as big and they're only saying that it's about 20 millimeters further. Yeah. So it was way off. And we knew it immediately when we were talking about it, like there's no way that would be right. So this one obviously hasn't marked right because it's about here, okay? So when you have a plane like these jets, the CG falls way up front because you need to be able to flare for landing, okay? All right, so model select comes up after it creates a new model. Then we scroll down, we go to model name. This is model number 73, and then this is gonna be the Arrows twin 64 millimeter F-16, or F-15 rather. So I'm going to type in Arrows and we'll be right back. Okay, so the F-15 twin 64 millimeter is the name by Arrows. And then the aircraft type is normal and normal. And you're like, but Brian, why don't I have to do this? Because you're only using one servo control for the elevators and one servo control for the rudders. So it becomes a normal. Oops, excuse me. There is flaps. So one aileron, one flap, okay? Then we'll change the image of the acro to something that better suits the plane. I don't know, the Habu is probably the closest. Okay. Now we are probably gonna need flight modes. So I'm gonna go, you could do AS3X off, and then save if you want a 3-position switch. Because we're doing landing gear on this, that's the way I'm gonna do this. So my flight mode is gonna be attached to this switch. My gear is gonna be here and my flaps are gonna be here. Then over here, we're gonna have our expo set up. And then here's gonna be our throttle cut. And I accidentally bumped the G, which is not being used for anything on this plane. Throttle cut's back on, by the way. All right, so we're gonna set it to switch D.
Tip up just a little bit. Thank you.
So you see how that's changing there. You can make different assignments to each position. And then later you can do spoken flight mode. See how it's not making any noise? So this is gonna be flight mode 1. So I'm gonna call this, I'm just gonna title it now so I know what it is. That'll be AS3X. You can hit twice and it'll clear. For those of you guys that don't know, you could go to the legacy keyboard if you like it. It's in your system setup. Okay, AS3X. And then I scroll way down to the bottom of the list. And we'll pause for this because it takes forever.
AS3X mode.
Okay, then flight mode 2, which is going to be off, right? See, I don't really even use off. So I almost feel like it'd make better sense to have like AS3X half or something. Like low AS3X. What do you think?
I don't know.
That'd be nice if you didn't have the knob, like if you're on the NX6. Well, let's just do off. Because then we can, you know, maybe we'll end up showing the people what it looks like if you go that route with a non-stabilized receiver. I wouldn't recommend it, but okay. Is there an off?
I think, isn't there
Normal?
one that says, I thought there was one that said like stabilizer off or something.
Okay, so we'll search for that and come right back. So we found off. So it'd be AS3X.
AS3X mode.
You notice it's not talking. You have to turn that on in another menu.
3.
So then this one's gonna be safe. Again, I don't use safe, but I always show how to set it up because I know a lot of you guys are in the process of working your way out of safe and into just AS3X or something like that. Okay. Then we'll scroll this back in and pause while we do it because it takes forever. So we have safe mode.
Safe mode. Off. AS3X mode.
Cool. Now that doesn't actually set anything up. We just named the position of the flight mode switch attachment. Okay, then channel assign, I believe on this one, we're gonna have to reassign flaps. Can't remember if that one's automatically wrong. We'll find out. We'll just come back out and do it. Okay, they suggested a conservative 4-minute flight time. On 3300, we're flying 3200. So we'll find out and adjust after the first flight. Active for the 1 out, that means over 25% is gonna start. 1 minute, I want nothing. 20 seconds, I want nothing. 10 seconds, I want a countdown. Voice and expiration, I want tone and vibrate, and then tone every 1 minute. Now, you can set up your basic settings so that they're always the same on your transmitter for some of these things that we go through repeatedly. But that's just the reason we go through it repeatedly is because you may only watch one of our videos, even though there's thousands more, just similar to the way we do this. Okay, so then audio events. Switch, stepping reports, generic center tones, flight modes.
Safe mode. Off. AS3X mode. Off. Safe mode. Off. AS3X.
Okay, you'll note that I didn't actually tell it to turn on, it just happened because I went into the menu. Okay, so then flap system, we're gonna attach that to, whoops, B. I don't even know what we're gonna set, so we're just gonna leave that alone for now. Well, probably have to set this to like minus or plus, but since we don't know, better to be safe and be in the center of the range. Okay, so we'll just leave that. We'll set this to 2-second deployment speed. On switch B, that'll be good enough. No, I'm gonna set it to just a small amount. Otherwise, I may think it's not working and freak out, start throwing things. Okay, it doesn't matter what the value is, we just wanna put something in there so it can change. Then we need to go to throttle cut. We didn't talk about that yet, so that's gonna be on switch H. Okay, so now when I move the stick, it's on, as you can see, and it's minus 100. As soon as I turn that off, it should go up. Yep, it did. So we're working. All right, so then I don't know what else we need to do at this point because we're gonna have to do forward programming. We get all our servos going the right direction. We should be golden then.
Dual rates and expo now?
Yeah, we can do that. Good idea. So we'll set the ailerons to switch F. We'll set it to 5. We'll go to 5, 10, and then 20 with rates of 90. Now, we do the same thing on all 3 axes. So 5, 10, and then 20 on expo with rates dropping to 90 in the top setting. Okay, so in the middle, we'll jump over to elevator, switch back to 0. Position 0 is all the way at the top. We'll scroll this to 10. We'll scroll this to 20. Of course, I overshot like crazy. And then we'll go to rudder. Did that switch right? Did that look right? Mm-hmm. Okay, 5. Then we'll do 10. And 20. And there's nothing saying that you have to have all these the same. It's just, you gotta have a starting point somewhere. Okay? So there's where we're gonna fly. If it's too much, we're gonna go here. If it's not enough, we'll go here. That'll be even more expo. So the most soft sticks, the most deadened, this is the middle. And then this is super touchy. Okay. All right, so we need to make some more assignments in forward programming and we have to reverse our control surfaces. But at this point now, we can go ahead and scroll to monitor mode. It's gonna tell us where to land our wires, which is why we have to start with that step. Okay, so we're gonna land wires right now. This is gonna be a little bit, why you're going over there?
Because I'm turning the stove down.
Oh, okay.
Actually, I was thinking about sitting on the counter because you're going to do wires now, right?
Yeah, if you want to, because this is going to be a tough one.
Okay.
So on the receiver, if you look right here, it says S plus minus. So that's signal. Plus is red, and then minus is black or brown. So in our case, it's brown, and then signal's yellow. Okay. So I'm assuming this is ailerons, and on our transmitter, it says ailerons are on channel 2. So we'll just go ahead and plug that into channel 2. With the S going toward the emblem here. So that's channel 2, not the port 2, because the first port is the bind plug. We don't need that because we have this button. So we'll press that when we're ready to get into bind mode. Okay, remember there's 2 ESCs in here, so there's probably like an S-back or something, or a U-back that comes off of that as well. That's why there's a splitter. There's rudder, and then rudder is on channel, looks like 4th channel. So I'll just go to 4, we'll plug this in. So for those of you guys who think I'm going too fast, there is a little icon in the bottom left hand of your screen, or bottom right hand of your screen. If you click, it's a gear. You can change the playback speed to slow down the playback. I know a lot of times people complain that we go too fast in the radio setup. Well, to be perfectly frank, there's a lot of people that think we go too slow, and there's always somebody that thinks we're going the wrong speed. So it's really hard to establish. This is not a beginner plane, so obviously we assume that people that are building it are gonna have some relevant, experience. But if you don't, we're here to help, and we do answer comments as best we can. So just leave the question in the comments. Okay, there's elevator, but please do me a favor and watch the video first. If I don't answer it, then ask the question, because I cannot remember all these things. We've built hundreds of these models. Okay, gear. So gear is going to be on channel 5 probably. There's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Okay, so gear goes to channel 5 in this case. And then 6 is going to be flaps. Yep. Okay, so there's flap. That cable management from the factory on this is leaving a lot to be desired. Mm-hmm. I mean, there's management, but I would say it's mismanagement at this point.
There's a lot to manage.
There's a lot of cables on a plane like this, yeah. Okay, so here we go. Okay, so now let's talk about this for a minute. Now that that's plugged in, that's gonna get hidden from us. So we need to make sure that we're confident that it's not gonna come undone, okay? If we're not confident, this would be a good time to run like a bead of hot glue along here, and that would prevent those from coming out easily. So when I'm done with this, this is gonna be slid back into this cavity and we're not gonna see it again, probably ever. And well, I mean, we're gonna have to press a button to bind, but that's it. So I guess honestly, it's probably a good time to do that before we even stick it back in the hole. Then if you know for sure you're never gonna be able to get to it, might not be a bad option to actually use a bind cable, which would require an extension cord. So I'm not gonna do that because it doesn't come with one, okay? And I can see all that stuff moving around in there, so we'll for sure be able to get this back. But I'm just not for sure it's gonna be super easy to get this back and push all the wires back and then also stick it to the wall. So we're just a little bit throwing caution to the wind at this point. We wanna get as far back as we can, not because we need to get to the CG, although that is kind of a convenient factor. Stabilizers placed on the CG tend to work a little bit better, but these more modern stabilizers are intelligent enough to know the change in state without having to be right on the CG. And you can adjust the gains a lot more than you used to be able to. So it tends to not be as big of a factor. Okay, so 3M double-sided tape. I'm just gonna pull off a little chunk of this. Let's see how big we got cut. Oh yeah, we're good there. So this is gonna be a nice big chunk of it.
If you were in doubt, you could bind before you put it back there and make sure all of your control surfaces are moving.
Which is what we're gonna do anyway.
Oh,
okay, so that being said, I'm gonna turn off my transmitter. We're not concerned about any of the safe, AS3X, any of that stuff. Because once we're bound, then we can do all that stuff. Before you bind a plane with retracts, double check that it's not gonna open into your support mechanism. We're open, we're gonna be open. Okay, we're gonna be good. We won't damage anything. Okay, so historically, when we plug in our batteries, then that's when we're gonna be ready for the thrust to happen when not expected. Okay, this is an EDF, so I'm not super concerned about safety. It's just more, I don't want it to blow off the stand. Okay, so we're just gonna temporarily lay this in here. We're gonna plug it in. Big spark, you see that, guys?
Mm-hmm.
I am not a fan of EC5s because look at that. We've already made burns all over that connector. Okay. So now, not worried about any beeping. We're gonna press this. It's gonna initiate the start. Okay, so it's ready to bind. You can just stay there.
Okay.
I'm gonna go ahead and press this button. We're on the profile. I'm gonna turn it on. Look how far away I am. Probably still not gonna work. Nope, bind failed. Okay, because we're filming this, it's not gonna work. Okay, so now watch this. Click, scroll down to bind. Yes, bind. Bind failed. Now we're gonna try again. Okay, so it's armed. Looks like the flaps are half, which is what we expected. Okay, sweet. So my flaps are backward. Elevator is correct. Ailerons are incorrect. So let's flip that now before I forget. Travel, scroll over to reverse, ailerons. So now we look at the ailerons. When I push the stick this way, it goes down. That one goes up, okay. And that's gonna roll, that's gonna roll. I kind of move my body. I move my body, I stand behind the plane and I just look at it and I say, where's it gonna make the plane go? Yep, yep, okay. Yaw, yaw, okay, sweet. Love the way it looks. Retracts. Oh, that is so cool. Locking nose gear, that is sweet. That is so sweet, guys. Oleo, functional oleo on all of these. Spring-loaded oleos. These ones are real stiff. Real stiff. But the wheels look great. Okay, now let's look at that. This is gonna rotate too. Oh, that is so sweet. I'm loving it. Just like a real one. Wow, that is sweet. Look at the nose gear. Watch that. Man, Man, that is gorgeous. Okay, cool. All right, sorry, I had to do that. Okay, so now we're gonna look at, so we wanted to rotate the ailerons. Now, from my personal experience, don't depend on my rotations. Depend on your own. Look at your own rotations. Verify the control directions. Sometimes servos get mounted opposite from what I have. So you need to check, okay? Okay, so elevator up, down, roll left, right, y'all left, right. Okay, so we're good there. Now takeoff flaps are backward. So I am gonna flip the direction of travel just so it's the way I want it on flaps, okay? So now it's going down when it's toward my belly and it's going up, okay? So now I can go into the flap mode. Can you see okay? Mm-hmm. And I'm gonna just set this to like, and I mean, you could just set that to a negative value and it'd be fine, okay? And we'll just scroll this all the way to the opposite. Okay, so there's takeoff, landing, absolutely gorgeous. I love it, that is so cool. Now, I wanna do this probably something more like this. So a little bit for takeoff, a lot for landing, okay? That decal's the noise you're hearing. I think it is.
Yep.
Okay,
It's
so
sticking out.
ailerons left, ailerons right, elevator up, elevator down, y'all left, y'all right, takeoff flaps, landing flaps, and then you'll notice that this is going the right way for most planes. But you have to remember there is sort of a nuance with some of these jets. The correction is sometimes opposite of a long wing plane, like this plane over here, which is the Husky Ultimate. The inboard flaps will produce a balloon effect. Sometimes on jets, it produces the opposite. And it just depends on if you've got a full length flapper on, or if you have like a flap that's more outboard on the wing, which is a little bit weird. On this plane, my expectation is it's gonna behave like a normal plane. On some jets we've had in the past, you deploy the flaps and it actually noses down, which is very unusual. So the way you correct that is here. You set this value. I'm just gonna exaggerate it. So it's like a huge change. Okay, so you see the elevator? So when I deploy the flaps, instead of having a balloon like this, I'm gonna compensate for that by putting a little bit of down elevator. Now you'll note that that happens at the same rate as the flaps moving, okay? So I'm actually gonna change this down to a much lower rate, and we're gonna, something more appropriate, like let's call it 10. And you can always click to go back to clear. Let's do like 6 and 10. So it's a super small change. Now, I don't know if I mentioned this, but there is an embedded hinge in here. These are not pinch hinges. That is just really, really cool. I love that. This is plastic, by the way, because it is gonna be vulnerable to damage. Mm-hmm. Elevator up, elevator down, roll left, roll right. Guys, it's just, other than the receiver being a pain, and honestly, I don't think it's gonna be too bad because now I just gotta peel it and just stuff it back there. Now, remember, this battery has to ride like right here or further back. So that means I need to get that thing back as far as I can get it, okay? So I like the fact that this is on. We've got forward programming to do. So I'm actually gonna leave this battery plugged in just because I don't wanna fight it again. This is how I'm planning on doing this. Now this might not be the best option, but this is the way I'm doing it, okay? I'm committed to it now. I'm gonna hold on to these leads, which is not usual, okay? And I'm gonna walk that back there like this, if I need it, but I'm gonna try it with just my hand first. Okay, so we're gonna peel the 3M double-sided tape. Now the camera crew, of course, is devoted as she is to getting you guys good content, which by the way, hey, we don't hardly ever talk about Patreons in the middle of our video, but we have some Patreons. We've been picking up a few new Patreons, and we really appreciate you guys coming alongside us, helping to fund this whole project so that the people that don't have, maybe a little extra cash to help support us in that way, we can keep everything free here on YouTube. And we really appreciate you guys doing that. There is a lot of work that goes into this channel that happens behind the scenes you may not be aware of. And yes, obviously, I love doing this, but my wife is just super supportive and loves me. And so she helps me to do this because she knows it makes me happy. And also it's just one other way that she can show how she supports me. And so I appreciate that, camera crew. Thank you, Megan.
You're welcome. Go and sit on my island and film for anybody else.
I'm so glad. Okay, so I'm just like getting this back as far as I can. And that's...
Do you feel like it's pretty straight in there?
Yeah, surprisingly, I think I kind of just lucked out. But even if there's a little bit of a cattywampusness to it,
Okay.
no, you can make a correction for it.
Okay.
It's not okay. You have to correct that.
Oh, okay. Can I show them?
Yes.
I don't want to interrupt you.
I don't know how you're going to show them exactly.
I don't
because
either.
it's like this. Oh gosh. Okay, that's perfect. You guys see what I did? Then put your finger back there to measure.
Oh goodness. I can like barely reach it.
Yeah. So I'm gonna use my pinky finger. Look at that. That's how far back it is.
Yeah.
So it goes to my first knuckle. So that's how far back it is, which is about what we needed. I'm gonna turn the flash off here. Okay, so if you have to do that, remember, you really need to secure that thing so it doesn't move, okay? So I am pushing hard on it to make sure that it gets a bite on the foam now that it's back there. Now the other thing I'm gonna do is, it'd be nice if I could stuff something in there that would prevent it from coming out, like a piece of foam or something like that, but I'm not sure that we're gonna get that flexibility. I wanna warn you about doing it this way. If it falls off of that wall, you will have potentially catastrophic issues, or you'll actually have less stabilization on the roll axis because that's gonna be the predominant axis where it's gonna wanna shift. And then your yaw axis is also gonna be deadened because you're gonna be hanging free, which means it's going to be allowed to respond at a different rate than the aircraft, which is what you don't want. Okay, so you're gonna isolate and dampen the responsiveness of the AS3X and SAFE. So that's what you're gonna expect to see if that thing breaks off the wall. So if you're flying and you have a problem, guess what you're gonna do? Off. And then you'll be safe. Meaning, you won't be unsafe, but you'll be safe and you won't have interference. Okay?
AS3X mode.
That's where I'm gonna fly.
Safe mode.
If you're depending on safe and that thing breaks free, safe might look like this to the transmitter or the receiver, and you're gonna be trying to land like this. Not gonna happen. It's gonna fly off that direction. It's gonna be very weird behavior. Not that it can't be done. It may actually fly. It'll be kind of cool to see. But anyway, that's my 2 cents worth. I'm just giving you my fair warning, but look how much nicer that wiring looks now.
Yeah, tons.
It looks so much nicer. You know why? Because you can't see it.
Right.
Now, just for fun, let's go ahead and see if we can plop this battery in here. I am just gonna go ahead and unplug it from the XT60 side this time, because actually I hate IC5s. I hate them. I hate EC5s. I like IC5s a lot. They work really good. Okay, so this antenna needs to be dealt with too. So let's talk quick about how this seat sits down in here. See how there's just that little lip if you point at it with your index finger?
Right here?
Yep.
Right there.
See how much penetration we have?
Yeah.
Show them the penetration on the next one. See that?
Yep.
3/4 of an inch?
Yeah.
So what you gotta do is, if you're putting this in here, where that 3/4 inch penetration happens, you're gonna run into that antenna. So I'm gonna show you a trick that will work most of the time. Well, 2 tricks. We'll do it the easy way. Okay, so the easy way is if this is thick enough, which this is, you can take and actually watch this. You're not gonna believe me when I do this. See what I just did there?
Jeez.
I know. I just made a pocket, okay? It's not rocket science, and believe me, your plane won't be hurt. Just your pride, maybe, if you're filming this. See this? Look at that. Now it's in there. And that is the part you want to protect.
Right.
Okay? The last 28 millimeters of the antenna is the part that is broadcasting as much amplitude of signal as the rest of it is covered by basically that sheath. So it's a little bit weaker there. Now there's still some broadcast happening through all of it, but that's how it's kind of like a tuning method, I believe is the way I'd put it. Easiest way to describe that without getting into radio idiosyncrasies that I can't really explain because I'm not an expert on it. Okay, so you see that? If you don't like that method, which honestly, that method will work just fine, You take your X-Acto knife and you cut at a slight angle all the way up the run, and then you slip it into the crack, and then you put a piece of tape over it, and it buries itself in the foam. Then it's protected. The reason I don't want to do it here is because it's just tight enough, I don't want to accidentally nick that. So now that we have that battery much better managed, let's see how terrible it is to get this, or the wires much better managed. Let's see how terrible this is. I hate that that thing falls down like that. That's so frustrating.
The strap.
The strap is loose, by the way. That's a good thing, folks. Yeah, I got to come up with a good system for that. I'd like to kind of adjust this back strap and just leave it so it's always the same. But I don't think that's going to happen because it's going to want to fall over on itself. So this one kind of just sort of becomes like a keeper. And then my strap that's actually holding it. In fact, let's go ahead and put our little shelf liner in there. Which, by the way, some of you guys had suggested this for years, and I've used it for years on and off. So I don't want to, I always try to give credit where credit's due. I don't want you guys to think, you know, obviously somebody got the idea from somebody somewhere, and I'm one of those people, just like you were one of them. But the thing is, like, I've been doing that for a long time. I just haven't done it in a while. And I found this recently where I take that Velcro, peel off the backing, and use the actual Velcro to hold it, which is nice because you get a little bit of isolation from vibration on the battery, but it also gives you a little bit more makeup when you tighten it in there, which is great. Makeup meaning that as you tighten the strap, you've got more adjustability to get it tight, and then you got a little bit of makeup if there's a bump or something you hit. Okay, now I don't know if this is gonna work. Sometimes it does, sometimes it doesn't. You're like, well, why would it not work? Because it doesn't slip. It's that hard to slide, which is what you want, by the way. Okay.
But in this application, sometimes you need a little bit.
I can tell you right now, we're about 100 times better than we were just 10 minutes ago, or 10 minutes ago. 10 minutes ago at 11.
Hilarious. 10 minutes ago in Brian time.
Brian time. That's a 5-minute video we just put together.
I know, yeah.
If you guys only knew how real that Brian time was. Okay, so we'll just pull that up. And we're gonna see like how terrible this is for a fit. I don't want that at the top because it's gonna compromise my ability to tighten it all the way. See how I push it down? See how I pull it and it goes right up? That's super annoying, but it is kind of the nature of the beast. So I'm gonna hold this with the forceps, push it way down, and then sometimes you can get it. See, now I can get it. Okay, and my objective would be to do this in such a manner that I don't have to actually do this back strap again. Back strap makes me hungry. Isn't that like a meat cut? Yes. Just say yes. Sure. See what I just did? I pulled that antenna off. I got really lucky. I could have broke that antenna and I didn't. So I was fortunate in that sense. All right, so transmitter's on. Everything is set. Whoa. Excuse me. Everything is set with the exception of ASRX and safe. And we're gonna see how this thing balances out right now as soon as I get this battery landed, okay? So you see that? Ain't going anywhere now. That's good.
That's pretty good though.
That's very good. That shelf liner trick has worked really nicely with the Velcro. Just keeps beeping. Okay, so it's armed. I believe that's a function of the AS3X. Taking a while. I would really like this battery to not fight us in this manner. So I'd like that to be pushed down a little bit more. But I don't know if I'm gonna get what I want. That's okay, I guess. That's fine, I can live with that. As long as this pushes out of the way when I put this lid on. We're gonna be good. Now remember, we have more purchase here on this, so we may have to kind of fold this battery around in a stupid way like that. But I don't want to lose our canopy. Fortunately for us, that snaps down. Really nice.
Will you put a voltage alarm in there when you actually fly?
Yeah, I will. And so that will impact the CG. So thank you for reminding me, camera crew. So this is a voltage alarm that we speak about all the time. just an inexpensive option. We have links to these, and they're just a simple thing. They work really nice. XBC battery checker is way better for running tests on your batteries, but this will get you good voltage alarm. Now, I'd recommend on an ES, you can press this little button right there, and you can set your voltage. See, that's at 3.6 is what I would do on an EDF. Okay, just looking at the cells. This is not right, by the way. They get out of balance on these things. They report incorrectly, and so you need to be aware of that. When they're brand new, they're okay, but if you get somebody who plugs this in polarity backward, it can screw them up over time. They don't like catch on fire, but they do get screwed up, I've found.
And you can get a
They're cheap.
pack. Yeah.
They're real inexpensive. I mean, if you're into this type of plane, they're like practically free.
Yep, just have a few.
Okay. All right, so I'm just double checking everything is on and working. Same direction of travel, that's all good. Takeoff flaps, landing flaps, good correction. Okay, landing gear up. That is so sweet. Okay, so, and my gear are backward actually. I want this switch, I want the gear to be retracted here. So I'm gonna switch that now. Okay. Up. Down. Awesome. That is so cool. I love watching retracts work. It's like one of my favorite parts of these models. Okay, so I haven't even tested the throttle. I just gotta test it to make sure it's working. Sounds cool. Oh, that is a lot of power. That's like barely even on. Wow, awesome. Okay, throttle cut's on. I'm not even gonna set it to where it turns on all the way. So now we have to do forward programming. Forward programming. Do you see that, how it's jumping like that? I don't know if you guys get that problem, but my roller, I think you could probably come down, so we'll reset and come right back. Okay, so before I forget, we were gonna do the forward programming, but we have to mark the CG or I am gonna forget. Okay, so we need to be 125 to 135 millimeters back from the leading edge of the wing. So where the wing joins the fuse, sort of, okay? So 125 to 135. And you're like, well, there's ordnance on there, Brian. How are you gonna mark that thing? Good question. I don't know. Should I take the ordnance off to mark? Let's see.
You're gonna mark on the bottom, right?
Yeah.
Oh.
How am I gonna do it? So let's just check it first. 125 to 135. So let's just say 130, okay? So that would be like the middle, obviously. And then it looks like this is gonna be, I'm gonna actually mark the top. Just one dot on the top. Now, why am I marking the top? Because I'm gonna have a hard time getting this mark on the bottom. And that is the center of gravity now. Now, no, I'm not gonna test it. I'm gonna test it with the gear down, because I need to make sure that the thing, it didn't say, did it? If it specifies, if it doesn't, okay, I gotta take the ordnance off. Fortunately, the ordnance are very easy to take off on this plane. There's just no way to mark it otherwise. I'm gonna have to mark it on the bottom. Okay, so I am going to properly mark the range like what we normally do now that I have it upside down, okay? So we'll just do 125 to 135. Okay, so there's 125. Okay, so right from this front, this is plastic, by the way, which is super nice. There's 125. There's 125. And then I'm gonna go out to 135. Okay, so there's 135. We'll mark that one. Jeez. And then we'll mark this one here. Okay, so now we have a front and a back mark for each side. And then I should be able to hypothetically feel that mark when I come in here to balance it on my fingertips. Without ordnance is the way we're gonna test it. It's just the way it's gonna have to be, because there's not gonna be, you're gonna be off the wing. By the time you come out past the ordnance, you're gonna be darn near off the wing. Okay. By the way, I think this thing's gonna look totally sweet flying without ordnance too. Okay. On the front hole, we're perfect. On the back hole, we're a little bit nose heavy. So honestly, on a plane like this, I'm gonna err on the side of faster landing, get it to the ground. If I have to move it back, I'll move it back. But to move it back, it's gonna require quite a bit of work, okay? I would like it to be slightly tail heavy on the front hole and slightly, I'd like it even on the back hole and slightly nose heavy on the front hole. Excuse me, tail heavy. I want it to be able to flare. So that means it would bounce on the front, I believe, and then it would be tail heavy on the back. All right, let's show the people from this side here. That is just phenomenal. Looks so sweet. I'm loving it. Okay, so without further ado, we can go ahead and put these back on. Do the ordnance go on the wrong side if you want? Actually, you can actually put them on the wrong way. The opposite way from what they recommend. It goes on just fine, actually. Okay. These thrust tubes are plastic, by the way. I actually like the way that looks a little bit better. But I know that there's a reason that they recommended doing it the way they did, because it's actually more scale that way, I'm guessing. I'm gonna have to do a little research before I can speak with any level of authority on that matter. But that looks pretty sweet. And they do work both ways. Okay, sweet. All right, so now the next thing we have to do is set up SAFE and AS3X, which actually does go relatively quick because we got so much other stuff out of the way. So, you ready? So we start by clicking. Hey, hold on. Let's do that and then it stays put. So we're gonna go into forward programming. We're connecting to the plane. Gyro settings, first time setup. Make sure the model's level, okay. It's not quite perfect, so I'm gonna just be a little bit more picky about getting that just so. Okay. It warns us if you make changes to the wing type or the servo setup. You can also just set it if you know what direction it is. So now we set the plane on its nose, which sometimes that's a lot harder to do in reality than, you know, like what Spectrum thought it might be. Okay, so I'm gonna set it on its nose. It's better to have it spatially exactly the same. Then I'm gonna click continue. And look how it suggests it's sitting. That is correct. Mm-hmm. The Spectrum logo is toward the front, facing you, and then the thicker part is in the back. And then the wires are stuck in from the side. So that is correct. So it knows its spatial awareness now. Okay, so the next step, of course, is to go to continue. So that was orientation 4 is the way we did it. Gain channel, select. So it says right knob is 3. So you can't just move it, you have to just click this and then scroll over to that. Okay, and we're gonna apply that. Now it's gonna reboot, so you gotta be careful with your landing gear again. Sometimes when these planes reboot, the gear will eject. So just be ready for it. Okay, now I'm going back into forward programming so we can get, and you notice there was one dance, AS3X. Two dances, that's one, that's two. We only did it once, that means AS3X is active. So we're gonna go to gyro setting. First time safe setup. Okay. You have to set up your flight mode, which we already did. It's gonna be on D. There you go. Before setting up safe, a flight mode. See, it's already done. Sometimes it makes us do that twice. I don't understand why. Oh, because it goes to back and you have to go to continue. Okay, select the desired flight mode.
Safe mode.
So I want to do safe mode, which is here. Don't worry about that. So this is where you'd make up for it. Like if your receiver was mounted, you know, like if it was mounted like this, your plane might fly in high alpha all the time. So you can actually make an adjustment for that, okay? And that tells you how it is, positive or negative. So in flight mode 3, I want safe in self-level and angle demand. Off. See, that's not changing. It means we're not going to be getting much done with this. Okay, it's going to reboot. We're going to try again. 2 times. So safe is now on. That means it's on. Okay, we're going back into forward programming. Gyro settings. Safe setup. There's flight mode. There we go. Flight mode 1. See how it's stuck on flight mode 3? We got to reset this again because it didn't do it right.
Safe mode. AS3X.
Auxiliary 1 is set up to flaps right now. So we got to change D. Okay, so you see how it says aux 1, D? That is incorrect because flaps are on. See how that just changed? Okay, so there's a conflict. That's why it didn't work. So we're just going to unset it because it doesn't even matter. So we're just walking out. We're going to scroll down to system setup, disconnect RF, go down to flight mode. That's good. Sorry, channel assign. See how this says auxiliary 2 is B? Wrong. Flaps are auxiliary 1. So channel assign, this needs to become big old D. Now watch this. Now when we go into the forward programming, we go to gyro settings, we go to F mode setup. Now watch this.
Mode. AS3X mode.
D.
AS3X mode. Off.
See? 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3.
Safe mode. AS
Okay, so channel 1 is going to be
mode.
AS3X is active.
Off.
This one's going to be AS3F off. Okay,
Safe mode.
there's safe mode.
Off.
Cool.
AS3X mode.
Okay, so now let's test it. Okay, so we're in regular flight mode now. Elevator up, elevator down. We're in AS3X. Off. Look, it changed. Okay, now, same thing. Roll. Safe. Look at that. Okay, roll. Okay, so throttle cuts on. Safe mode is on. So we're gonna look for this to go up as I tip the plane up, or excuse me, it should go down as I tip the plane up. See it? It's trying to level the plane. Now when I go down with the nose, it's gonna try to level the plane. Now also, watch the ailerons. It's gonna try to level the plane. Find the middle. It's finding the quickest route to level. Okay, so that's very cool. And you can tell very distinctly when it's in safe mode because it does that, but there's also limited throws. So you see we're right in the halfway point. Forgive the noise. Now we're out of safe. Okay, Now, AS3X is not active until you give throttle to the tune of 25%, okay? So we're in AS3X mode. Throttle cuts off. My hands are safe of the blades. Do not grab this and drop it, okay? So here we go. Time for the power test. Probably gonna have to charge that battery. So anyway.
Pretty quick flight time.
3.6 might be a little bit too aggressive. Okay,
What
so.
percentage were you at? Was that full throttle?
That was 100%. Okay, so gain is all the way up. Now look at the rudders. Moving to the left, they move left. Moving to the right, they move right. Elevators, moving up, they go up. Moving down, they go down. Look at both, up and down. You check both because there's 2 servos. Ailerons up, down. Ailerons up, down. Okay, everything's working right. I want to teach you guys something quick, and this is something I want you guys to see. If you have trouble seeing the movement, you can go to forward programming, throttle cuts on, gyro setting, AS3X setting. You can change this value down below 0 or below 1, or you can go above 1. Yes, it is hokey. Sometimes it does that. Okay, so now walking out of the menu, watch this. I'm at 4 times, which is crazy. Watch how much more crazy this is. See that rudders? See the rudders? See the elevator up, elevator down, aileron roll, aileron roll. Now watch this. So I'm gonna move it at a constant rate. You guys hear the noise? Now I can turn that knob to nothing, or I can turn it up, okay? So when you first take off, it's gonna be like crazy overkill, like way too much. But what I've found is that 9 times out of 10, I'd rather have too much than not enough on the first flight, and then we can back it off. However, in this case, I do that so you can see. Pretty sure we're gonna be in gyro setting, AS3X setting, gain 1, okay? So we're done with setup, okay? Everything's set up. The only thing we don't know is exactly where this knob is gonna be, so I'm gonna put it at 50%. And the idea is when I'm done with my first flight, if I need to go to 2X, I can go to 2X and get a little bit more gains if it felt like it was needing a little bit more stabilization. At that point, I'm gonna be all the way full, which means if I go to 2 times, I'm gonna be at half to be where I'd started. If I then go to 4 times, then I would be at a quarter, okay? Does that make sense? So the idea is at the end of the day, you wanna make sure that you give this plane every opportunity to make it to the ground in one piece, notwithstanding the fact that you haven't spent any time learning to fly it, okay? So every plane flies a little bit different. No matter how good a pilot you are, there's always gonna be a little bit of effort that goes into learning how to fly a new plane. And this is no exception. And I am super, super, super excited to see this thing fly because it looks like it's gonna be absolutely fantastic. So without further ado, guys, Brian Phillips here, asking for a favor. If you want to support our channel, buy this plane from our links. If you want to support our channel, buy this transmitter from our links. And if you hate this F-15, which I don't know why you would hate it, then we have tons of other choices. So when we ask you to buy from the links, we're not saying buy this because you want to support us and you hate it. We're saying if you enjoyed this plane, you think you would enjoy it, then buy it from the links. You're buying it anyway. Small commissions come to us from these different vendors and companies that we work with, manufacturers and distributors, and then they pay us a small commission, and that's how we stay in business. So, as you can tell, this thing looks pretty stinking awesome. And you can also tell that when we have problems, we share them. Wiring, namely. B, I wasn't thrilled about the way that these things plugged in, but we're here to look out for you guys. Even though we work with these companies and Arrows has been great to work with, we work for you, not for them. Even though we have relationships with them, we have relationships with Horizon, Banggood, Amazon, all these different companies that have allowed us to work with them. at the end of the day, we bring it to you, and you guys are the ones that dictate whether or not we find success, not these vendors. So if we didn't have great vendors to work with, it would be hard to bring this much to you because we just couldn't afford it. It would be impossible. So we love doing this for you. And the way you can show your appreciation is to give us a thumbs up. If you haven't already, we really appreciate it. These videos are super long. We get killed in analytics because we do long videos that are in the training arena, as opposed to entertainment value and wow, look at that high speed pass. Of course, we're gonna do that. You've already seen it at the very beginning, but not many in terms of a percentage basis watch a long video because most people don't need this much help when they're getting into a plane like this. But we do it here at Brian Phillips RC because we know everybody has to start somewhere. And if this is your first plane, I wish you a lot of luck because you're probably not gonna have great success. And that's the second reason why you watch Brian Phillips RC is because we're gonna help talk you out of this plane if you're not ready for it, because one and dones kill more RC pilots than any other failure. We want you guys to enjoy the hobby for more than one plane, because one plane doesn't do much good for you. It doesn't do much good. Most of your expense comes in the first 2 or 3 planes. And then you start buying more planes. You know, you buy yourself one of these, you buy a couple of smart packs, you buy a couple of batteries from Arrows, you buy, you know, a charger, you're gonna be a couple $1,000 in it. And you're gonna be like, what the heck? I bought this F-15 and crashed it immediately. I'm done, I'm never gonna touch another one. We wanna prevent that with all of our energy on this channel. So if you're just getting to this and you realize you bought this in error, and you're like, but Brian, look at it, how could I not try to fly it? I mean, I kind of get it, but at the end of the day, we're here to help avoid having $600 catastrophic failures because at the end of the day, you're not gonna come back if that's your first experience. So yes, there's a million great planes. This is not one of them. Even with safe, this plane is not gonna be a super easy to fly plane. Now, I'm saying that from experience, but not personal experience with this plane yet. So after we fly it, I may stand corrected and I will be very thrilled to stand corrected. But I've been there before. I'm gonna tell you right now from past experience, and I'm talking about hundreds of other planes, this plane is not gonna be the easiest plane to fly, no matter how sweet it looks. Sweet looks usually mean they're harder to fly, in my experience. Yeah. So the better it looks, the harder it is to fly, is what we found. So this thing looks really good. So I'm expecting it to be a little bit of a challenge, and it is a challenge that I can't wait to take on. So you guys have already seen it. You have that advantage over us. So definitely give us a like, thumbs up, share this video with your friends, have them watch them and say, hey, dad, brother, cousin, nephew, husband, wife, whatever it is, whoever is interested in RC that is scared to get off of the couch or the office chair or wherever it is you sit, you know, on the bus back and forth to work or whatever it is, when you're watching us on YouTube, whoever you are right now watching us, if you're scared to get into RC aviation because you think it's too hard, too expensive, too time consuming, too whatever, or you're not good enough, or you're not capable, or you're not whatever, or, you know, I don't care your excuses. Everybody has great excuses. Just stop making excuses. Get a plane and start flying. You can start with something cheap, you can start with something simple, you can start with a ready to fly, and we review all that stuff on Brian Phillips RC. We literally have thousands of videos to help get you from where you are now, which is knowing nothing, to flying some of the best airplanes on the market within a few short years. And yes, it does take a few short years. No shortcuts in this. So, without further ado, come back for more. We hope you loved it. We love you guys. Thanks for another great year on YouTube.